set you free, but I really want to let you be. And a part of me wished I could set myself aside, just let you take the ride, just chalk the rest up to destiny. I could let you believe that the only restraints in life are the size of your dreams. Let you believe each kid grows up with the world at their feet. When I know too well it's open season, I know they're taking stock and raising stocks and raising stock. And I'm simply not here to sit and watch as you learn the lesson all cogs are taught. Keep your head down and keep to task and just keep on blocking the rest of it all out. Just keep on with the rest of the herd of a million adjacent oblivious workers. The forest unseen for the trees, and the trees unseen for the fallout. No, what's more damning, baby, the truth or the ignorance? Fuck it, I honestly wonder if I see the answer so well. Baby, believe me, well, I know it's scary, I scare myself. If I could find a way out of my head, I would run like hell. I would ditch this body politic, mindless occupant somewhere far from the dismal abyss. In the tranquil crystalline bliss of the beach, I could rest with the rest of the shells. And if anyone asks, I'm anywhere else. If I'm really needed, just light the candle, then read the book and then ring the bell. Oh, my untarnished heart, my little perfect soul, this world will melt your mercy down so they can sell its gold. This world will take your worth and then demand 1,000-fold. It's full of greedy pigs who'll eat you out of house and home. They'll strip your bank account and sweep you somewhere down the road, and then return to eat your tent and shitty bike you rode. Your bottled water, only shoes and coat and broken phone. Then smiling in your face, they'll tell you that the shelter's closed.
That is an extreme way of thinking.
Hoped you would never find out, knew that you had to know. Pulling what's left of my mind out, trying to tell you so. I tried to block the light out, knew you could feel its glow. I've been here holding my hands out, trying to keep you close, trying to keep you close.
Oh, my untarnished heart, my little perfect soul, this world will melt your mercy down so they can sell its gold. This world will take your worth, then demand 1,000-fold. I tried to block the light just so I could keep you close.
Our society and our world are full of these invented and built up and contrived facades. And sometimes some people come along with a hammer and smash that facade. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade.
Welcome to the future. Shit where you please. The Wi-Fi's killer, but there's no more bees. So there's hardly any flowers, there are very few trees, and you'll pay $1,000 for some honey for your tea. But we got these awesome collars, mine's an Apple Model 3. It allows for better movement than the Tesla X Elite. It lets you customize the ads that it implants in every dream. And for premium subscribers, doesn't shock you in your sleep. But it doesn't stop there. It can analyze your speech, and if it hears disinformation, then it notifies police. It's a swift re-education, but it knocks you off your feet like your booster every 7th week. I faced the future boldly with 2 eager open eyes, and I picked a couple nuggets up that blew my fucking mind. Like you can taxidermy someone while they're technically alive, and they'll shine when it's election time. See, the Democratic voter base will pay them zero. Never mind if voting for the scarecrow is a vote along their party lines. They could stare into its marble eyes and claim there's something dignified. Unlike real politicians, this one doesn't need an oxygen or kit supply. But its function is the same as those who came before. The goals are never misaligned. It still spends all its working time performing pre-recorded fleecing sessions where it sugarcoats your slow and hungry genocide, while pouring billions into Nazi coffers, all the while selling you the story that we're moments till the MiGs arrive. So fuck it, ask Zelensky if he'll help replace our leaded pipes. Watch a fleet of Penske's show stacks of bills in every size. Guess it only took a black sun and a couple Hiles. Honorary goose step and some Nazi boots a quarter mile, all while Biden sneers his sordid smile. I don't know what was in this morning's vial, but it makes him stare 1,000 yards through all the prompters and the cards like he can smell the nearest child. His eyes are wide and wild, wider than the grave in which another 1,000 families were tossed in as I typed until they rose up to the sky unceremoniously piled. Which sort of flies right in the face of all this network ticker tape where the American economy has superhuman vitals.
And sometimes some people come along with a hammer.
See, I like to think my trial's gonna play like a recital. I'll denounce the world around me and accuse the most entitled, who weaponize their titles, whose pull is something tidal, who'd starve us all to death to best delight their blighted idol. So they might destroy the record, and I will never get to vinyl. So my word is not immortal, but it's final.
It's a brilliant, powerful hammer. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade.
That's how it goes. We won't open our eyes, so we're the last ones to know. We're the last ones alive. Kept our enemies close. Wondered why we don't thrive while we're grasping at ghosts. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5.
Count back from 5. The theater on fire, the cast on strike. The studio stock starts taking a dive. The contract's tossed and they're gone with the tide. The heads and execs, their hands are tied. We can't pump this track and treat you right. But what do you expect from the industry type who survive by the leeching of bodies and minds? From those who original thoughts never seem to find. So they're gonna reboot ALF before your wages rise. And it gives cause to pause and reflect on the times. If they're losing control of their fools and their mimes, when all those obedient actors who grew their careers by averting their eyes are now holding the line, along with the authors of countless scripts that strengthen the hand of that corporate grip, squeezing our throats till we take the pen and we accept and consent to the corporate drip, till you're all up to date on your format du jour, till you gotta help.
Just an off-the-cuff chat between you and me. Us. We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Who are these people?
It's us. We're these people.
I love that intro. I love that intro so much.
I'm here with a different co-host this time, Oz LaFave.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on.
Friend of the show, DJ Joe Nice. How are you, friend?
What's good? And you hear Nick say this all the time. The United States is the most propagandized country in the world.
We are so fucked, you guys. Again, I'm sorry for being cynical, but seriously, we're fucked. We are fucked. We are well and truly fucking fucked.
Just appreciate all the work that you do and the platforms that you all are providing.
Hey, doing good. How are you guys doing?
I think as independent media, we have a responsibility to be, we don't hide our bias, obviously, but we must stay true to the facts.
What's up, Pam?
Cheers and salutations. Smoke them if you got them.
But I am here with a man that I've been waiting to talk to for the last couple of years, Nico House.
As an educator, what I would suggest is that, first of all, podcasts like these are made.
So you need to be an example for the people and for the future, knowing that your words can actually change the future.
What do you feel? What would Kwame Ture feel we would have to do?
Well, politics is every day of every minute. You have to be aware of what's going on. Not voting on one day, so the vote has never meant anything. So I'm not a Democrat.
See, I would call that guy the Black Obama.
No. The issues that we talk about, listen to us.
As always, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
INN News.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
It's Wednesday. It's me, Reef, with my co-host as always, Collin Radix-Carter, aka Care Bear. Care Bear, we made it. We did it. Another week in the books.
Well, less than a week because we did stream over the weekend.
Yeah.
So
yeah, our weeks are gonna be all messed up. It's gonna feel weird, So
in what way?
I don't know, just time frames and whatnot, Like,
sure.
Anyway, how you holding up? How's DC doing? Not on fire yet, hopefully?
No, it's cold and rainy and depressing.
You want to trade? It's 83 degrees, 89 degrees here with 70% humidity.
We're going to get that weather by next week. So the sad thing is I'm actually kind of looking forward to that because it's just been so depressing.
Yeah.
And obviously it's rain and cold. So it's the type of days where you don't want to do anything and just stay in bed. It was very hard being at work today. I really was feeling it. Like,
what is that? What is that sad?
I was like,
seasonal?
No, I was just wanted to take a nap.
Depression.
Just really want to take a nap.
No, not in Jersey, Vicky. DC and Florida. That's weird mix, I know. Anyway, we brought stories.
We make it work somehow.
We do.
We brought stories after, like, I don't know, but it was very difficult to bring stories. Either the stories that are kind of hot, we usually don't do anyway, and then the ones that we were finding were just kind of meh.
Yeah.
So, but after like maybe about several hours of digging, one, I didn't have to dig because I was kind of on the fence about doing it. But I think it is important to talk about it. But this first story, I'm actually kind of excited about, in a sense. So we all know, well, those of you who've been on the show for long enough, my mayor, Mayor Bowser. There's a reason why that segment is titled as it is. We'll get into that in a few. But right now, she is currently doing some mess in terms of a ballot initiative that we voted for twice and passed twice. and now she's trying to repeal it in the name of saving money. So we'll get into the details of that in a bit. And then later on tonight, this was a viral story online. I didn't want to talk about it because we don't want to deal with this again. But it's actually, well, the story is bad, but it's not as bad as
it could be.
People might believe it to be. I'll say that because I thought this story was going to go one way, and actually it's not, but it's still depressing. But I do feel it is important to kind of talk about it. So, and I kind of titled it clickbaity. But there was a video of this. This is a little girl. She's 7 years old, who is seemingly burned in this onslaught here. But there is a story behind that, which we'll get into later. And what did you bring?
Well, I brought a couple of stories. I've got kind of a follow-up to last week. We kind of touched on this last week about Trump and Ramaphosa, right? And the fuck shit that happened at the White House there. But there was a follow-up, and Malema, head of the IFF, decided to clap back, if you will. So we're going to check out his statements and see how that went. And then another terrible fuck Israel story about the disastrous aid. Again, kind of a follow-up to last week where we talked about the privatization and U.S. mercenary Blackwater cutouts that, enacted this. So we're going to talk about how that clusterfuck decided to happen. And then I have some McBride updates that aren't great. So we'll do that after that. So anything else?
Cool.
I think that's it.
No. But yeah, as per usual, most of you here are not new. But in case you are, welcome. Welcome to the show. Don't know how you got here, but
yeah, don't know how you found this shit because they don't let you.
Well, they don't let you because YouTube, one, has demonetized us, and two, because we talk about stories that are not favorable to their algorithm / their advertisers. They put us in the abyss of the algorithm, meaning you won't ever see us unless you know about us and you happen to subscribe.
Right.
So obviously, given that we are a news show and a news network, where we feature independent media sources, we obviously want to try and get that information out to you guys to kind of combat against the mainstream media that you're probably seeing on social media. So the only way that you can help us do that is financially, because as I said, we don't get any money from YouTube, and even when we were, it wasn't much anyhow. So the way you can help us is, you see that QR code you see on your screen? If you have a smartphone, you can scan that. If you see the Ko-fi link that you see at the bottom of your screen, you could type that in, kofi.com/indienewsnetwork. Or if you happen to be in the YouTube chat, you can, and you forget the link, you can type in !donate in the chat, and the link will automatically pop up. And then you can click on the link and it will go right to our Ko-fi page, and you can give as much or as little as you want. Anything as small as $1 will help. And just to be completely transparent, any money that we get helps go towards paying essentially our bills for the network, meaning paying for the programs and all the things that we use behind the scenes in order to have this show and other shows on the network run. So any extra money that we get, we hope to help support our colleagues in upgrading their equipment so that they're able to continue to produce better content and better quality content for you guys.
Yeah.
That being said, we also know times are hard, money is tight, so you have no obligation to give. As we always say, take care of your families, take care of your friends, take care of your neighbors, take care of yourselves before you give to us. That being said, if you want to, we more than appreciate it. But if you still want to support us, the free way and the best way is to like, share, subscribe to our content. Check, especially if you are subscribed, because YouTube does unsubscribe people from time to time. So make sure you are subscribed so you are notified whenever we upload clips or let us know when we are live. And maybe to be more favorable to the algorithm, it will help us in terms of having more eyeballs watching us. So, and yeah, so I think that's our spiel. Oh yeah, and anyone who gives at any point makes it to the Wall of Fame. Anyone who has the, I guess that's brown
gold.
font, gold brown font, are basically our super donors.
Yeah.
The VIPs. We will work on getting you guys something special as a thank you. You guys already know what it is.
Pizza party. No?
No.
Aww.
I don't have the money for that. Although that would be nice.
Would be nice, wouldn't it?
But yeah, but like I said, fam, we are very grateful to you guys. And just in case, also, if you don't want to give through Ko-fi, you can also give through Cash App, PayPal, and Substack. All the links are in the description below, as they always will be. If you want to give those that way, especially if you want to give monthly, Substack is the best way to do that. But we love you guys and thank you for your support. And we're growing. Well, despite all of our suppression, we are continuing to grow. So, but yeah, thank you guys so much for supporting us and loving us and sharing our content. We've been definitely feeling the love around here.
Appreciate it. All right, you ready for our first one?
Yeah. And actually, as I told Reef just before we went live, like I said earlier, by the way, if you guys have any stories you want us to cover, tweet them at Get Indie News, please. Like, honestly, the last few weeks have been painful trying to come up with a show because the stories have been crap and we don't want to talk about Trump all the time.
Yeah.
That being said, after doing a little digging, I came across this article. This is in regards to my mayor. So this is a local story, at least for me. But but I think this is also kind of a warning for anyone, especially in local politics, especially if you have Democratic councilmen or Democratic mayors, that they exist to bullshit you too.
Yeah.
So just because, and I know people talk a lot in regards to Congress people, Trump, Biden, all the people in federal government. People in local government can screw you over as well, if not even more so. So that's why we always say, focus on what's happening locally, because locally you have the most control in terms of where your money is being spent, or at least at minimum, you can form better relationships, adversarial otherwise, with your local leaders versus the lack of access you have with your federal ones. So, as I said, this is Mayor Bowser. She's my mayor, based in DC, and you're probably wondering why I titled this segment Mayor 1%. Well, the thumbnail and the title is actually based off a book based on this guy. we know him as Rahm Emanuel, who is the mayor of Chicago. So he had a book, apparently, that came out over a decade ago, which was titled Mayor 1%. Subtitle is Rahm Emanuel and the Rise of Chicago's 99%. So I do want to read the synopsis. This was pulled from Amazon because this will kind of give you a little context as to what I'm going to read regarding Mayor Bowser. But the synopsis states, how did a city long dominated by a notorious Democratic machine become a national battleground in a right-wing war against the public sector? In Mayor 1%, veteran journalist Carl Leiderstein takes a close look at Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel and his true agenda. With deep Wall Street ties from his investment banking years and a combative political style honed in Congress and the Clinton and Obama administrations, Emanuel is among a rising class of rockstar mayors promising to remake American cities. But his private sector approach has sidelined and alienated many who feel they are not part of Emanuel's vision for a new Chicago, and it has inspired a powerful group of activists and community members to unite in defense of their beloved city. By the way, Chicago, for those of you who may not know. So I thought it was interesting, given, that brief summary of the book.
Right.
Hopefully this will give you enough context in regards to our mayor, who has also been called a new Mayor 1%. Based on the article, this was pulled from Black Agenda Report and Popular Resistance. It was written by John Jeter, who titles, in DC, a new Mayor 1%, this time in blackface, as in Bowser. Muriel Bowser is proving that black faces in high places don't break systems, they grease them. Ooh, that's good. Ooh, that's very good. That should be a shirt. But anyway, while slashing prices for tip workers and handing billionaires stadium deals, DC's mayor is the engine of gentrification in DC. So let's continue and see what she's up to. Well, we talked about her a couple of weeks ago regarding the proposed stadium that she's looking to build in the city limits. So you can find that in our playlist to learn more about that. But we're going to get into this in terms of how she's trying to screw over workers in DC. What do you mean, Collin? I'll get into it. Earlier this month, Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel E. Bowser introduced legislation to repeal a law that gradually increases the minimum wage for hospitality workers who heavily rely on customer tips for their bread and butter. If the D.C. City Council approves Bowser's proposal, it would represent the second time that the city's elected officials have overturned referendums in which a majority of voters endorsed pay raises for restaurant workers. 56% of voters approved the initiative in 2018 and endorsed it by an even wider margin, 74%, when it was put on the ballot 4 years later. So, give some context. We had a ballot initiative twice to raise the minimum wage for tip workers. We did it in 2018, which I actually remember because that was within the first year I moved here. It passed, but the councilmen basically were like, nah, we ain't doing that.
Right.
Then it became a ballot initiative again 4 years ago. 4 years later, 2022, it passed again. So, so right now the shift is now steadily to bring restaurant wages up to minimum wage.
Right.
But right now, Mayor Bowser, and we'll get into this later in the article, is basically trying to repeal that initiative. So, so let's get more into details in that. In a May 6th press conference to unveil her 2026 budget proposal, actually, she just now did that a day ago. Bowser said that reversing the wage increase was necessary to ease the financial burden on restaurateurs who experienced a record number of closures, 74 in 2024, according to the Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington. So basically, she's saying there, I need to support the restaurant lobby. Who gives a fuck about the workers and their tip wages?
So long, Bowser.
Additionally, Bowser said it was important to cut red tape to reassure investors who might otherwise be rattled by a commercial environment that includes rising rental and labor costs, the Trump administration's chaotic trade policies, and its deep cuts to the federal workforce. Said Bowser, we are a hospitality-based economy. It's the hospitality sector that allows people to buy homes, put their kids through college, and afford to live here. And if restaurants close, there are no jobs. Concluding, she said, we need to have a policy environment that makes it easy to do business in DC.
What's
I would
the
argue we need
cost of living in DC?
You mind looking that up? But I think if I remember correctly, because we have reported on this, it's around $23 an hour. So whatever that is, plus the math. And I will argue even with that might be
$92,000 a year average.
Yeah,
allegedly.
That sounds about right. And even then, that's living
39% higher than the national average.
Yes. So DC expensive. And our minimum wage, for those of you who don't know, is 17. So do the math. That's not, even the idea of tipped workers getting $17 an hour. It's still not livable, so, but again, Bowser's trying to repeal that because she basically told you she's looking to support the restaurant and the hospitality lobby over the workers who the voters twice have voted to give tip workers a little bit more money in their pocket.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's continue. Midway through her third term, Bowser's pro-business strategy is characteristic not only of her tenure, but of each of the 4 African Americans who succeeded the iconic Marion Barry in the mayor's office. Since Barry stepped down in 1999, the erstwhile Chocolate City has undergone a stunning transformation, openly courting affluent childless couples, drying up the cost of housing, privatizing its school system, and pushing out African Americans who accounted for 61% of the population in 2000, but only 42% today. That number is likely to continue to plummet, according to affordable housing advocates, labor leaders, and rank-and-file employees who complain that Bowser isn't done nickel and diming the city's workers, despite economic forecasts that the city will lose $1 billion in federal revenues over the next 3 years. And part of that also has to do with Congress pulling $1 billion from this year's budget.
Right? Yeah.
So not her fault in that regard, but given the rising costs of living, and I'll say this now, I would think it would be a lot more important to ensure that people are taken care of, as in meaning stronger safety social nets versus running to like corporations, and in this case lobbies, to basically say, if I support you guys, then you need to pay people, which they're not going to.
No.
And that's never been a thing. So yeah, basically putting her stance over the lobbies that are really running the show versus the workers who actually make the city run. And look, the reality is, and I've said this before, even because I work in the richer part of DC, families are leaving. Like, families are either going back because a lot of them are diplomats or world bankers. Many of them live overseas or from overseas. Many of them are going back to their home countries due to the cost, or moving, if not immediately outside in Maryland or Virginia, where, depending where they go, might be slightly cheaper, or out of state entirely because, you know, it's just too much. So I'm talking about the affluent families that I know who live here.
Right.
So if that's happening, then you could imagine how worse it is for low income families who don't have as many options, but will also have to leave DC because the social net systems are not necessarily there. But anyway, let's get back into it. In addition to her proposal to rescind the legislation raising wages for tip workers, known as Initiative 82 or I-82, she announced in April a plan to commit to more than $1 billion of taxpayer money to build a $4 billion stadium for the city's NFL franchise, the Washington Commanders, at the site of the old Robert F. Kennedy venue that was shuttered in 1997. And as I said, we talked about that, I think about 3 weeks ago. You can find that clip in the playlist if you're interested. While Bowser and other officials assert that the deal would generate $2 billion in new tax revenues, Jeffrey Profiteer, an expert on stadium financing deals and a professor in the School of Public Affairs at the University
the
of
worst
Colorado
name to
at
have
Denver.
for that profession. You know, you can't be called profiteer and then you're an expert on stadium financing. Like, dude, that's a little on the nose. You know? Anyway.
But anyway, he told reporters that the city is effectively giving the Commanders as much as a 90% reduction in rent over the life of the lease agreement.
Doubt.
The whole entire thing is a land grab.
Yeah.
Benji Cannon, a spokesman for United Here Local 25, representing hotel, restaurant, and casino workers in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, told Black Agenda Report. The stadium deal would give almost $1 billion to a billionaire football owner and does not come with a public commitment to bring either good jobs or affordable housing, which DC sorely needs as seen by the growing homeless population. And the attempt to repeal I-82 is profoundly anti-democratic. What message does it send to DC voters to say that this policy you voted for twice, well, you can't have it? Exactly. Cannon and others note that consumer spending fuels the local economy, and a livable wage is the lifeblood of a sustainable economy, as evidenced by the United States recovery from the Great Depression. Conversely, lowering employees' wages incentivizes consumer borrowing, and the combination of increasing debt and shrinking household income has sapped the global economy of its vitality in the 52 years since the U.S. engineered the coup that overthrew Chile's socialist president Salvador Allende and installed a right-wing dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet. Pinochet's bone-deep cuts created the template for ruinous government financial policies known as austerity that spread from Chile to Chicago and Cairo to Cape Town. Progressive economists compare cutting wages during an economic downturn to cutting off the engine of an airplane in free fall. It only accelerates the descent. By one key metric, the velocity of money, business activity nationwide is near an historic low. Okay.
Jayaraman.
Saru Jayaraman, president of the nonprofit organization One Fair Wage, told Black Agenda Report, "This is why the Democrats keep losing elections. They are not the party of the working class. DC residents are experiencing the worst cost of living crisis in memory, and Bowser wants to roll back wages of our most vulnerable workers."
Yep.
Employers are typically allowed to pay tip workers a sub-minimum wage. In DC, I-82 increased the minimum wage for minimum pay for servers and tip workers in yearly increments from $5.35 per hour in 2022 until it's scheduled to match the hourly minimum wage for all employees in the city, $17.50 in 2027. The city's minimum wage for tip workers is currently $10 per hour, but another pay increase is scheduled to go into effect in July. At the behest of local restaurateurs, Bowser hopes to block that wage increase. The irony is that appealing I-82 would hurt African-American women like Bowser. In the restaurant industry alone, more than 27% of Black workers live in poverty, roughly 37% of tip workers are mothers, and nearly half of those women are single moms. Even more ironic is that tipping is proliferated in the United States after the Civil War, when the restaurant and hospitality industries hired newly emancipated Black women and men, but encouraged customers to tip their employees in lieu of paying wages. While African-American men who worked as Pullman porters were ultimately able to organize and win wage concessions, that actually might be a segment we should probably do.
Yeah.
The National Restaurant Association formed in 1919, the same year as the outbreak of anti-Black pogroms known as Red Summer, to stop African-American women servers from winning similar concessions, JRMN said. Donald Trump campaigned on eliminating taxes on tips, and while JRMN said the gesture is mostly symbolic, only a third of restaurant workers earn enough to pay taxes on their tips. A bill is winding its way through Congress. It's pandering, but Donald Trump is going to deliver a little bit of money for tip workers while Muriel Bowser is talking about rolling back their wages. How insane is that? The movement to end the sub-minimum wage goes back more than a decade, and JRMN said that racism and sexism are two of the biggest hurdles initially. Bartenders, usually white men, tend to collect more in tips than other members of the wait staff, and organizers had to persuade them that they would continue to earn more than their co-workers under I-82. Said JRMN, "We have talked to lots of white male bartenders who say they deserve to make more money than waitresses." Really? It is not clear that the DC City Council will approve either the stadium deal or the repeal of I-82, but older residents in the city have begun to compare Bowser to another big city mayor with ties to the district. Not Marion Barry, who almost single-handedly expanded the Black middle class and made neighboring Prince George's County, Maryland, the world's most prosperous majority Black population in the world, mostly through doling out city contracts to African Americans, but Mayor Rahm Emanuel, who is Barack Obama's chief of staff and will go on to serve 2 terms as Chicago's mayor. For his austerity politics that included closing 50 public schools in a single calendar year, almost in all Black and Latino neighborhoods, Emanuel was known derisively as Mayor 1%. A few DC residents have taken to calling Bowser Mayor 1% with braids.
So just to give you some, that yearly salary, cost of living in DC, 92,000 average. That's $44 an hour. As of now. So what do they say they wanted to push it to and then rescinded it?
$17.50 an hour in 2 years.
What kind of commute do they expect? Because you ain't living in DC, you have $17 an hour. You know, that ain't happening. So, okay.
So this is a tweet from Martin Ostermole, who is a journalist in the city, a very prolific one. So give a little bit more context. Bowser released her budget for this upcoming year. So there was some good things from what I read, but it was mostly what we expected in terms of a lot of cutbacks, especially from a lot of social programs that are keeping many families, especially those who are low income and families of color, afloat. But Warren tweeted yesterday, a brief debate between Mayor Bowser and Councilman Robert White neatly summarizes the politics around her proposed budget. She's pushing to scale back some social programs and put more into economic growth, but White worries that growth without services leads to displacement.
As it probably would.
Actually, let's show you a clip of Bowser basically saying that, that she's looking to grow the economy in the matter of, we need to make money. The city needs to make money, so we need to support the businesses to help people make money. So go ahead.
I think you just answered your question. That's the answer. Like, in every household understands that. You have enough money, and if you don't have enough money, something has to go, or you have to make more money. It's that simple. And so the way we make more money, our path is growth. Some other people will suggest just raising taxes. And what I know about what we're facing and Deputy Mayor Albert's efforts is when we're talking to businesses, they talk to us about how much more expensive it is in the district than it is in Virginia. When I'm talking to DC restaurants, they say, why do we have this 82 and they don't have it in Virginia? When I talk to restaurant workers, they say, why am I making less money because of this I-82 and they don't have it in Virginia? When I'm talking to affordable housing developers, they say, why did we go from being #1 in building affordable housing and attracting capital investment, and now we're almost at the bottom? Because of DC laws. That's why. And so we have to choose a path to grow our economy and not overcharge our residents and businesses. That has to be our path.
Okay. Well.
So that was her thesis of repealing I-82. So White responded, we've got to be really clear. We can't repeat the mistakes of the past, said White, arguing that past efforts to focus only on economic growth led to displacement of Black residents. We can see revenue growth without pushing people out. What we cannot do is suggest,
I got it.
What we cannot do is suggest that we can only pay for programs and keep getting more expensive while also not increasing jobs and revenue we have. What happens is you overtax your residents to the point they ask, why do I live here? Countered Bowser.
Go. There it goes.
The message from Bowser and her officials is that DC is entering a moment of austerity. Expensive social programs have to be scaled back and economic growth prioritized. Once growth leads to improved revenue, those social programs can be revisited. Yeah, right.
Are they ever
damaged by that? Have we found a way to make the city grow and work for everyone? Asked Keenan McDuffie on the tail end of the discussion between the council and Bowser. So here's my take on this, just to kind of summarize all of that. I think is very disheartening, the idea that this is a ballot initiative that the city residents have wanted to make the commitment to support tip workers twice, and both times either it was the restaurant lobby or the DC Council or both repealed it because they wanted to protect the restaurant lobby. Because essentially the restaurant lobby, as we see pretty much on the macro level, they do not want to pay their workers. They want to keep more of the profit to themselves. And yeah, like rents are high. Like, yeah, I live near several restaurants like within a block from me that closed down within the last couple of months. I think two of them did within the last couple of months.
Rent is
because of
too
high
damn
rent.
high.
But the argument that I think people are making is that restaurant workers are making too much money, which I'm kind of like,
what?
That's not a thing ever. Because even if you give them $17.50, that's still not a living wage. So you're more concerned about your bottom line in terms of you as a business versus the people that are helping you keep the business going. And personally, I argue if you don't have the money to pay your workers well enough that they're able to live, you probably shouldn't have the business to begin with. Sorry, that's just how I kind of see it. But it's the idea, again, Bowser is willing to give $1 billion of our money towards a stadium, which I argue, is it necessary? You can make the argument back and forth whether or not. But we talked about this when we did that segment, that typically stadiums do not bring in the capital, are not the kind of investment that, makes sense. And given where we're at right now, I still feel it makes no sense to even talk about having a stadium back in the city without thinking about how we're going to take care of the people first. Because like I said, it's just going to lead to more people leaving. It's going to lead to more homelessness. And I don't think it's going to help with the matter of keeping, in this case, restaurants open. Because, yeah, you may not be paying your employees, but rents are still going up. And given food, with the tariffs and everything, food is probably also going to go up as well. So I just don't see. So I just don't see what Bowser is thinking in terms of, well, I know what she's thinking, but she's basically made it very clear that she's looking to support the lobbyists and the corporations that are supporting her over the people that essentially, I don't know why, but voted for her. And so this is, again, just kind of to show you, like, what you see on the federal level will trickle down on the local level. This is why I keep saying you need to focus on what's happening on the local level, because these Democratic mayors or Democratic councilmen, as they say they might be, depending where you live, can find a way to screw you over too. And the thing is, you have more control of what's happening in your town or city versus what you're able to control in your federal government. So that's kind of why I wanted to do this story, to just kind of give an example of the way that the Democratic Party, regardless of the federal, local, or in-between levels, can find a way to screw you over if it means keeping them in office, but to keep the corporations and all these investment corporations that are looking to gentrify cities in particular happy. So,
yep. And they wonder why, just sad.
It's
anyway.
very sad. So, but yeah, so probably might do an update. Like I said, I think this was kind of a diamond in the rough of a story, but I think it's important to kind of share, but I think this is more of a case of for you guys to really learn or understand who your local leaders are and kind of be aware of what they're doing, especially in terms of the budget. So, like I said, our Mayor Bowser just announced her budget plans. So now our council has to basically go for everything, and it will go through an open forum process right now. So I'm probably going to have to write up to testify for the council to, depending on the programs they're cutting, basically being like, don't cut this program, don't do this.
Right.
For them to vote on this budget in middle of July. So I probably might do an update at that point, depending on what I'm doing. But talking about stories like these are wired and monetized. Don't know why for this type of story, but whatever. Regardless, if you want to support us financially, you can scan the QR code that you see at the screen on your screen there, or you can type in the Ko-fi link that you see at the bottom of your screen in your browser, or if you're in the YouTube chat, you can type in !donate, all one word in the chat, and the Ko-fi link will pop up, and you can give as little as $1, as much as you want through the Ko-fi link. If you don't want to give through Ko-fi, you can also donate via Cash App, PayPal, or Substack. The links are in the description below. And as always, guys, we always appreciate your financial donations. But if for some reason you cannot, or you're strapped for cash, and we more than understand, just you being here is gift enough to us. Then the free way is, and the best way is liking, sharing, and subscribing to our content. And what do you think of this story in regards to Mayor Bowser? Do you think the title of her being called Mayor 1% is deserved, much like Rahm Emanuel? And by the way, I heard that he's actually, the Democratic Party is floating him as far as a presidential candidate.
They're floating a lot of people at the minute.
Right.
So,
yeah,
we'll
I mean,
see.
not surprised, but yeah, I was very surprised to hear his name in midst of the other horrible names.
Yeah.
But whatever. Regardless, are you aware of your city's or town's budget? Do you know what how your local leaders are planning to utilize their budget? Is it for the betterment of your community or investment in your community, or is it to support lobbies and investments companies? Let us know in the chat, or let us know in the comments once we pull out the segment. And help us get to 3K. We hope to get 25K, hopefully by the beginning of the summer. Maybe by the end of the year that we're able to get to 3K. Who knows? But regardless, we appreciate you guys for watching, and thanks a million. Although we hope we can get 1 million subs too.
Yeah. All right. Do the chats. Beep, 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 beep. If you're over on Rumble and you're not a lizard person, use those opposable thumbs. Get in those chats. Let me know what's up. I saw some on the YouTubes. Scroll up. So we have Desert Mantis. YouTube would never unsubscribe a user, Colin. How dare you imply such a thing?
Well, I know YouTube has unsubscribed to me as a collaborator of this network at least twice. So it is very possible.
It is possible. The Accord
Desert Mantis,
Lord. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say,
Desert
wait,
Mantis,
that's not Bowser. Isn't he green? Okay, go ahead. You got
might
it.
as well be. The only government official I trust is the
parliamentarian.
Sean in the chat. Corrupt ass motherfuckers. The whole lot of them.
Yeah.
Muriel. So Upstate Raider, you're new. Welcome. So stealing labor value is essential. Right.
Apparently. We found that out, didn't we?
Sean again. Wow. Subversion of voters' wishes. Why the fuck not?
Yeah. He also asked, isn't DC the carjacking capital? So
yes.
That's fun. Nice.
Yes.
Senate girl
or at
over
least
on the Twitter. That's professional profiteer to you. That's right. We remember Mr. Profiteer. Also replies, by which time you'll need $30. Never mind, you already need $30 an hour. So
right.
I think we said what, $44 an hour just to meet cost of living, average cost of living
in DC.
Yeah,
in DC. Keep that clear. In DC. So
What else we got? Anthony Malecki says, I think I know what needs to go in response to Bowser. Yep. So crazy. Sean says stadiums only make the rich money.
Right.
Pretty much.
Exactly.
Also says they cutting a lot of teachers and staff out here. It's sad. A lot of parents are stepping up though. Hope it will help. Yay.
Right. I mean, I will say this regarding our budget. One thing is, well, it applies to me. They're keeping my salary at least. So
that's nice.
So I'm not getting cut in salary, and I don't see any cuts in schools overall. If anything, our school budget has increased a little bit, which is good, but it's not going to help me do my job if social programs are being cut, that there's going to be a lot of students who are going to need those services, and I'm going to have to teach those students. So yeah, so that's the double-edged sword there. I'm not saying either should be cut, but again, my thing is you should probably support the people, especially right now, like shoring up a lot of those social services, because more people are probably going to need them within the next few years. And we can't trust Congress because we don't have that protection, that they can cut our funding, our budget, as they proved a couple of months ago, just because. So I feel it's a matter of ensuring that people get what they need at this time, and not worry about the frivolous projects, aka a stadium, to another point where we're a lot better. Again, I'm not saying a stadium is not a nice thing to have. I just don't think it's a thing that we should justify having in the guise of making money. And as people said, yeah, it's going to make the rich money. It's not going to make us, the poor, money, because again, we're going to be getting minimum wage. And a lot of the restaurants that may only be open while their games are going to get less than minimum wage plus tips. So it makes no sense. So,
bro, don't be trying to hate on Buffalo Wild Wings out here, bro. Don't be doing it.
But you know what it is, though? I think I'm I'm kind of amazed that people are like, oh, well, it's going to build the economy. It's going to give people jobs. Yeah, but would you work the jobs that, right? But my question to them is, would you work those jobs that those people will be getting? No. So don't talk about them as if this is like a 9-to-5 white collar job.
They're gonna yell at those jobs because they got their nachos cold.
Right?
Like they don't give a fuck.
Right.
But anyway, all right. On to our next one. Let's go. So last week we talked about the meeting between Ramaphosa and Trump. We brought a lovely article from San Husseini about not appeasing the fucking empire. I don't know why he has to explain that to people. To me, that seems kind of like, rule number one. But I found another article, and this is, I don't know if you know who this is. This is Malema, head of the IFF. I think we brought one of them before, but Trump brought him last week doing the Kill the Boer song that everyone loves here. But we're going to get into it. So I brought this article from George Hazim over at Substack. And he says, courtesy over courage, Gaza pays the price. So kind of in a similar venue. So he writes, every American who did or didn't watch Trump's ambush of South African President Cyril Ramaphosa at the White House last week should be embarrassed. Trump outdid his usual uncivil and ignorant self. For non-Americans, it was cringeworthy, not because of any intellectual mismatch, but because of what Ramaphosa allowed Trump to get away with. Politeness and a desire not to offend while being a guest in someone else's home would Ramaphosa's apparent approach. And y'all got to quit that shit. I'm tired of that shit.
Right.
Ugh. Trump, meanwhile, behaved like a Neanderthal, a caveman, meandering and masquerading as a world leader. Ramaphosa's parents clearly raised him well, but there comes a time when being a guest doesn't mean remaining silent while being disrespected. Respect is a two-way street. Trump's inglorious performance is a warning to world leaders. Politeness in the face of distortion enables dangerous narratives. Appeasement, no matter how diplomatic, allows propaganda to go unchallenged, which was Sam Husseini's bit as well. So, the meeting, framed by the Trump admin as a chance to strengthen bilateral ties, whatever that means, became a moment of international discomfort for anyone who remembers Trump's reckless comments about South Africa during his first term. In 2018, Trump tweeted a baseless accusation, citing a Fox News segment claiming the South American government was seizing land from white farmers and that there was large-scale killing of white farmers, an unfounded claim steeped in white supremacist paranoia. At the time, the South African government swiftly rebuked him, calling him misinformed, but now, face-to-face with the architect of that lie, Ramaphosa said nothing. The silence was more than diplomatic restraint, it was complicity by omission. Trump's portrayal of South Africa as a place of reverse racism and violent land grabs isn't just a lie, it's part of a wider political strategy. Vilify black and brown populations, distort foreign crises, and portray justice movements as threats to the established order. So, here is Africa Stream, who reminds us that Malema slams U.S. politics. They wouldn't dare in my presence. So, in the video we're about to watch, economic freedom fighters, the EFF leader Julius Malema, came out at U.S. President Trump following a live telecast of Trump's confrontation with Ramaphosa at the White House. Trump showed decontextualized videos of Malema and accused him of inciting violence against white farmers, an assertion based on the long-refuted white genocide conspiracy theory. Malema retaliated against Trump and Ramaphosa, calling them cowards, liars, and disrespectful. So, we'll just watch this video, shall we? And see what he says.
I will never be intimidated by America. I will never be intimidated by Donald Trump. They were speaking about me in that meeting at White House. If they were not gossiping about me, they should have called me into that meeting. I would have answered everything that Donald Trump wanted from us. If they are not scared of me, call me into that meeting. That nonsense that Trump did in America, he will never do that nonsense in my presence because I will confront him here and there with the facts.
Throw them bows.
Ramaphosa could not present the facts in front of Donald Trump. You've got a coward president. He left here. Ariana, he won't be bullied. When he arrived there, he was shaking. Another president scared of another president.
Any thoughts?
Well, even if he didn't want to, Ramaphosa didn't want to get into that issue with the farmers or whatever, he could have brought up Gaza. He should have brought up Gaza in the midst of that. And but he didn't. And look, here's the thing, and I more than understand this as a Black person, because we tend to be viewed as vile and loud and uncivilized coofs often.
And they've never met my family, have they?
Right. And I get, yes, when you're in the midst of adversity, even I, to a point, was told, yes, you have to be polite, you gotta listen
kindness,
to blah, blah, blah,
all that jazz.
But I think when I was a child, I think that was when, especially from my mom, I got more of those lessons. which makes sense. But I think as you get older, and I think at this point, getting a little more annoyed with people anyway, I feel there is a balance to, like, you don't have to go off in a way that Trump would have done, like belligerent and just being an idiot. But I think there is a balance of you being able to speak into truth, as Sam was saying, so that you do not allow that propaganda to kind of fester in the social media sphere. But at the same time, you can kind of show your power, more importantly. Like, especially for someone like Trump who only respects power. So, you know, even if he wasn't going to listen to you, you're still representing your country. And basically, Ramaphosa, and I think I mentioned this last week, he came off like a bitch. For all intents and purposes, I'm going to say the word that Sam will not. Like, he came off like a bitch. Like, no, because he should have been able to clap back and not scream at him, but kind of make the case as to, and I think he was trying to do, and I'll be a little bit fair, he was trying to do that, but then Trump was doing his thing, whatever. But I felt like he could have came at him a little stronger and a little more fervent in the power that he holds as president of South Africa, but also given what they're doing or trying to do with the ICJ regarding Gaza. If anything, they have the higher playing field here. So, look, I'm petty as hell in this case. I would have brought that up. Like, you know, you're talking about me and you're talking about my country as far as farmers. You're talking about a country that you're allowing to bring bombs into, you're complicit in sending bombs to Palestine, and you're not even willing to arrest their president. So what say you? What's good? Like,
yeah, what's that quote about, like, polite women never make history, that kind of thing?
Right.
So
right. And I think right now, especially, like, if it were Biden, sure, I can maybe agree, perhaps. But, like, this is Trump. Like, Trump seems to respect you more if you clap back at him. So yeah, why understand what Ramaphosa was doing? He probably just didn't want to be bothered with Trump any longer than he needed to be.
Yeah.
Which, again, I more than understand. But given your position, I felt, yeah, like, he should have been able to stand up to Trump a little bit more than he did. Which, yeah, he just kind of came off like a chump.
Yep. So the truth is even more complex. South Africa's post-apartheid land reform program, while slow and often flawed, has never included the wholesale seizure of white-owned farms. The murder rate among white farmers is lower than that of the general population, yet Trump's narrative has taken hold among far-right groups in the US and globally, fueling the white genocide conspiracy theory. Ramaphosa, who has cultivated a reputation as a pragmatic statesman, had a unique chance to correct this falsehood in Trump's presence. More importantly, he had the opportunity to call out Trump's hypocrisy, particularly in light of the US role in the ongoing genocide in Gaza. While Trump falsely accused South Africa of targeting white farmers, his own administration and now his ongoing political influence has emboldened Israeli aggression in Gaza under the banner of self-defense. His first term saw the U.S. Embassy move to Jerusalem, UNRWA funding cut, and a green light given to Israeli settlements in the West Bank. Today, his allies continue to deny or dismiss the mass civilian deaths in Gaza, where entire neighborhoods have been leveled, hospitals bombed, and more than 200,000 Palestinians killed. This is more than a double standard. It's a grotesque example of how imperial narratives operate. Victims are vilified, aggressors are absolved, and any criticism is dismissed as anti-Semitic, anti-American, or extremist. Ramaphosa, who has rightly led South Africa's case against Israel at the ICJ, should have used this meeting to expose that hypocrisy. Trump's attacks on South Africa weren't just ignorant, they were projection. Trump's inability to recall history, whether about apartheid, American slavery, or colonialism, isn't accidental, it's political. His worldview depends on erasing context, simplifying conflicts into black and white binaries, and always casting the Western world as the besieged victim. Leaders who engage with Trump without challenging these distortions help launder them. As someone who came of age in the anti-apartheid movement and who governs a country still navigating the trauma of racial injustice, Ramaphosa had every reason to push back, not with hostility, although, I wouldn't blame him, but with historical clarity. He could have reminded Trump of America's complicity in apartheid through Cold War alliances and trade. He could have clarified that land reform is justice delayed, not revenge. He could have connected Trump's 2018 falsehoods with the lies now being weaponized against Palestinians. Instead, Ramaphosa chose the safest path: diplomacy over truth, optics over courage, and while diplomacy often requires restraint, this was a moment that called for moral leadership.
Correct.
The lesson isn't just for Ramaphosa, it's for every world leader preparing to visit the White House again. When standing opposite a man who distorts reality to serve power, silence is not neutral, it's an endorsement. Ramaphosa's...
Just one thing.
Go ahead.
Pause for a second. I wouldn't argue just for leaders, but for us in general.
For sure.
Especially for us in media. And I think this is kind of why we do this.
Yeah.
Like, we want to be able to kind of say, no, this is wrong and this is why. Or focus on people that say, no, this is wrong and this is why. So really, this is a call for all of us.
Yeah.
Like, in the sense of when you see, and especially now, given all the misinformation that's out there, like, you have to be prepared to actually stand up and say, no, you're wrong. And I can tell you why you're wrong. And again, you don't have to be a dick about it, but you need to be able to as bravely as you can, share the truth. And I understand, given depending on what that is, that can mean your life, especially now. But again, as Sam said, it's a matter of moral clarity and leadership. Like, the truth will eventually ring out, even though, like, you may be hated for it in the short term. But it still has to be said, regardless of how uncomfortable it can be. So no, I feel like this is a lesson really for everybody, but I think especially among our colleagues in the space who say that they're trying to do the same thing in terms of, bring truth. So
So Ramaphosa's failure to confront Trump was, in my opinion, cowardice and also a cautionary tale, because when leaders remain polite in the face of lies and injustice, whether in defense of their own people or in solidarity with others, they risk becoming part of the machinery that sustains oppression. So,
well, as they say in the real world back in the day, it's time to stop being polite.
Yeah.
And start getting real.
It's fucking keeping it real, it goes wrong. So here's some more from Malema, who had plenty to say on this. So I'll let him speak. I honestly think, dude, Trump bringing that guy is the best. He's going to get so much press for that. Like, that might push him into power in this next election. So we'll see.
Probably.
Hold on. I got you. Don't worry. I got you.
America must never tell us what to do. The same United States, which is furious at being cut off from the riches of Burkina Faso, cannot tell us what to do. We stand with Captain Traore. We stand with Traore because we know that Traore stands for the unity of Africa. We are Traore, and Traore is all of us. If they kill Traore, you must know they would have created another wound in the continent of Africa. We must defend him the same way we defend the unity of Africa. We must defend China for defying the USA and telling the USA to go to hell
Wish they would
because
do
they
more.
don't understand how the tariffs works. Donald Trump is an enemy of himself and all of us. And he must know the EFF is not scared of him. The EFF is not scared of Israel. The EFF is not scared of Morocco. The EFF is not scared of the imperialist forces. The EFF will stand on the side of the people of DRC, the people of Sudan, and the people of Sahrawi.
Thanks, Minpress, for that. I think I got one more though. Here we go. Is it gonna? There it goes. Cool.
Do you know there are some South Africans, and let us be blunt, many white South Africans who fear Julius Malema? Some of them have said to me, if Malema gets to power or close to power, I will leave this country. Do you welcome their fear, or do you want to find ways to overcome their fear?
I don't welcome their fear. Stephen, they said that about Mandela. The most celebrated Mandela. You're talking about me. They said if Mandela, a prisoner, becomes the president, will live in this country. And they left. I was in the Val River the other day, looking at some of the houses that whites abandoned in 1994 when Mandela became a president. They are not scared of Julius Malema. They are scared of an independent black man who's not controlled by any white person, who's not controlled by London.
Funny how that works.
Right.
Anyway, but shout out to that dude. Although I would be leery of anyone wanting power. That's just me. But,
yeah,
you know, try to keep that guy in the straight and narrow, and hopefully he doesn't get iced, you know? So protect yourself at all times, sir. But just to finish out, history won't just remember the lies that were told. It will remember who stood up to them and who didn't. So keep that shit in mind. Anything you got to add, Care Bear?
No, I mean, it's already been said. I think once again, it's just, I think a good reminder of why we're here and why we do this. And it's not, you know, even like certain stories that, and we talk, you talk about this all the time. It's like there are certain stories even in our space that become viral or popular that everyone and their mother covers, and sometimes you have to wonder, why is this story getting all the traction versus like other stories that should be that don't? And you know, and I think even here we have to be careful as who's pushing certain narratives, or certain people who gets exclusives when no one else does. You know, like there is, even in our space, there's propaganda that is trying to be pushed. And so we need to be very careful of, I think generally are trying to be very careful in who we trust to pull like our stories from every week generally. But then the idea is, it's like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you, and I'm speaking for us in independent media, like, what's our thesis of being in the space? And if it's, you know, and I think for me, it gets hard because I have to remind myself every week.
Who are these people?
Oh, thank you, Sean.
Appreciate you, dog.
Like, I have to remind myself every week of why I do this, because it gets hard, and I basically bitch to you about this every week, you know, because it's like, it's just so hard, you know, like there's so much truth that needs to be shared, and I feel like at times, even in our space, that we fall short of it, because as we keep saying, the algorithm does not favor stories like these. The algorithm favors like the more sensational stories that are going to get a lot of traction, because YouTube values their ad base that would like those ad money in order, you know, to keep YouTube going. But, you know, but for you, in order to get like literally cents of the dollar from YouTube at the end. So, but again, it's a lesson that the truth must be said even when it hurts or when it is tough. And you sitting idly by while you allow others to spread lies and the truth and you're complicit at that, we're not at a place right now where we're able to stand still and allow propaganda to fester. We have to stand on our word and in the truth that fortunately we have journalists like Sam who are able to do that, but we have to take it upon ourselves too to do the same thing. So yeah, I think it's a lesson for all of us, and I think a reminder to don't allow people to spread that misinformation when you know better. There's a way that you can deliver it that you don't necessarily have to be antagonistic to them, but it has to be said. And again, Ramaphosa did not do that well. And there could have been a lot more that he could have said that honestly he should have said, and he probably would have gone viral if you're thinking of it, that he would have gone viral for it. But the only reason why that clip went viral was because Trump was acting like a jackass. How much more viral would Ramaphosa would have been if he said, "You're shit on Gaza. You're shit on this issue.
Right.
You don't know shit about our history. You don't know shit about your history. God damn it!" He had he was probably the one in control, and he was the one that acted like a pussy. So, just in a means of being polite, he didn't want to ruffle his feathers. That's my guess. So he just kind of kept quiet. But given his position, he shouldn't have.
Agreed.
So,
and think of
that's
how
what we're
viral
saying.
you could have gone if you smacked that motherfucker in the face. Just saying. Would have went pretty far. But I would not condone violence normally, but I feel like it's justified. Isn't that what they say? Isn't that how they do this? Anyway, talking about this is why we're demonetized on YouTube. So if you want to appreciate us with some monetary value, you can scan that QR code, go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork, or links are in the description as well. But if you can't do that because you're one of the poors like ourselves, just do the algorithm stuff. Like and subscribe. Share the video. It's the only way we meet new people. So please share. Leave a comment. Allegedly that helps, the video get more views. But otherwise, thanks for watching. Cool.
Thank you.
So before we get to that, Sean the Accord Lord over on the YouTube's true honor is not doing the hard job. It's doing the hard job because no one else is. Yep. That's what we keep telling ourselves. So, he also said EFF him, which is funny. That is a funny yoke. Appreciate that. So what else we got? Nope. Most of the time, first 5-year businesses around a new stadium close. Lots of jobs get lost. Then they build breweries. So hopefully you like breweries, Collin.
Not really, honestly. I only go if the right group of friends happen to go. But yeah, I don't go to breweries often.
Right? So, in imperialism over on the Rumble, stadiums now require facial recognition, don't accept cash, and barely hire real humans anymore. I mean, I feel like that's almost everywhere now.
Everywhere now, right. No, but what I'm talking about is restaurants, going back to stadiums, because the idea is people are there could be more restaurants that people are going there. Well, here's the reality. Look, those of you who know DC well, or if you've been to DC at any given point, people might, it's not like New York in the sense of Well, when I say downtown, I mean like Manhattan, like the actual downtown, like the business districts, like Wall Street, where all that is. That's more work area, but even then, like there are places uptown where like you're able to shop, you're able to eat all the time. Like, but that's just like I'm just saying of like New York as an example. And other cities work like that in their downtowns. DC, again, DC's downtown is work. So like people go into work, you might have lunch there, you might have a happy hour there, and then you go home. By like 7, 8, 9 o'clock, there's nothing going on unless there's a game or a concert going on. So it's not like people are just going downtown to hang out and like party or whatever. Like there are different sections of DC in different neighborhoods that people will go to. Like, for example, I live near one of them. I'm very fortunate that I live near one of them. I don't ever go into downtown. There's nothing to do downtown. But the idea is that a lot of people think, oh, if we have a stadium, then there's more things for people to do and eat and shop. And I'm like, people aren't doing that now, and we have a lot of the stuff in place, in the infrastructure in place already. So, and especially for football, that's only happening like within the fall season. Like, that's not going to be the attraction that you need to boost the economy, quote unquote. Like basketball, baseball, I can give more prevalence to because they have longer season. You know, so so I can make that case for that. But for football, that's only happening from like August through December, maybe through January, February, if they make it in the playoffs / Super Bowl, or if you're hosting the Super Bowl. Like, you're not going to get that kind of revenue necessary.
Well, where are you going to have Beyonce concerts at, Collin? You need a stadium for that.
Well, we have Maryland for that right now.
Fucking Maryland. Go to Maryland, you fucking dummies.
Well, we talked about that. It's their lease is up,
right?
So that's
and
why
they don't want to pay for it no more, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, because now, what's his face? What's the governor's name? Wes Moore. Now he's trying to figure out now that the Commanders are heading back or allegedly coming back into DC, what they're going to do with the stadium, this empty stadium that's going to just exist in a parking lot. Like, what do they plan to do with it now? So, so really, to me, in my mind, that the NFL got what they wanted from them, sapped them dry, and are planning to leave.
Yep.
So, so it's, again, it would make more sense to me if they focus on the needs of the community first, and then for like the fun shit, if you want to have the stadium like within the next decade, okay, make plans for it now and build into that, assuming the infrastructure is there. Don't have it and then say, oh, we need it to boost the economy as the excuse when we don't even have affordable housing for people, which is ironically what people were asking for in that neighborhood. But I mean, as social emotional learning with Dr. Nani said, it's the American way. Exactly.
Tale as old as time. Sean also said that picture shit was insane. Less than 10 minutes after someone proved it wasn't what he said. So, yep. I mean, what was it? He was pulling up stuff from the Congo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, fucking, I saw a comedian was like, now I don't think y'all went to the moon. Y'all don't even know where the fuck Congo is. So, the fuck? Anyway. All right, you ready for our next one? No.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I I didn't want to report on this story, but actually reading it is, well, I don't want to say it's not as bad. It is.
Yeah.
But relatively speaking, what was probably reported and the conclusion that people would come to naturally is not what it is. Even for I having to go through it was like, oh,
yeah,
it's a lot different from what was presented, at least on social media. So, so you brought this guy, new
Arturo Dominguez.
So Arturo Dominguez. So he wrote this. So he has a Substack called Decolonized Journalism. I'm not going to read all of it, but I'm going to read the parts that kind of relate or connect
right
to this upcoming story in Gaza. But he titles his article, "The Media is Showing Its Bias Again." While children are being burned alive in Palestine, all legacy media will talk about is 2 Israeli embassy workers who were killed and a U.S. citizen who tried to firebomb a U.S. embassy in Israel. So let's get into it. So,
there you go.
There is no question Western news media harbors biases, whether it's villainizing Black people and Latinos in news stories as they echo what police say without scrutiny, or killing civilians in wars all over the world, or overthrowing governments in Latin America to install US-friendly far-right Christian nationalist dictators. The bias in our news ecosystem is visible. There are countless examples from the start of the war in Ukraine, and while someone explains what is happening today in our news media, we cannot forget Western media's ugly history in this arena. From referring to indigenous people defending themselves in the West as savages, to slaughtering millions in the Middle East in our so-called war on terror, the same bias is being applied in legacy news reporting on Israel's relentless slaughter of Palestinians. The murder of 2 embassy workers is tragic and should be reported on, but it should be accurate. The perpetrator who allegedly committed the murders did so not because of a hatred for Jewish people, but of a loathing of what the Israeli government is doing in Palestine with Western support, primarily weapons provided U.S. taxpayer dollars, an unpopular move. According to his alleged manifesto, which the FBI validated as the shooters after they visited Glenn Klippenstein in an attempt to intimidate him for publishing it, he was motivated not by anti-Semitism, but by the genocide of Palestinians. That much is abundantly clear, yet the media is echoing what police say in calling it an anti-Semitic attack. To declare the horrible shooting anti-Semitic would require defining the meaning, which highlights why it is so dangerous. While all of this was happening, Nazis were again roaming the streets in our neighborhoods across the country, and the administration, along with the pro-genocide crowd, remained silent in comparison to speaking out against those who want the slaughter to stop. This creates a more dangerous environment for Jewish people. If the focus is on redefining anti-Semitism to target anti-war students, then they are ignoring those who really wish to do Jewish people harm. The problem is with the far-right pro-genocide lobby is the unpopularity of Israel's actions by nearly every non-Western nation on earth. In other words, wars are lost not by casualty counts, but by losing global support. In that sense, Israel lost a long time ago. Because of that, the attacks against people who speak up are motivated by silencing dissent and attacking free speech, and if they had their way, sending U.S. citizens to gulags in foreign countries. According to the DOJ, Neumer arrived outside the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv on May 19th, carrying a dark-colored backpack. The report alleges that, without provocation, Neumeyer spat on an embassy guard as he walked by. As a guard attempted to detain him, Neumeyer broke free, leaving behind his backpack, which allegedly contained 3 rudimentary improvised incendiary devices, otherwise known as Molotov cocktails.
Yep.
This defendant is charged with planning a devastating attack targeting our embassy in Israel, threatening death to Americans and President Trump's life, said Attorney General Pamela Bondi. The department will not tolerate such violence and will prosecute this defendant to the fullest extent of the law. While the news focuses on these two events, Israel bombed a school, killing dozens of people, including children. A video that went viral on social media shows what appears to be a little girl in a building engulfed in flames trying to find her way out. Hospitals, schools, houses of worship, private homes, nothing is off limits for the Israeli government. None of these has previously moved the U.S. Congress to condemn Israel's actions, and we shouldn't expect them to. Their callous inaction to stop the killings, alongside continuing to ship weapons and fund the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians who are indigenous to the land alongside Arab Jews and Christians, speaks volumes about the motivations of the U.S. government behind the scenes with the help of lobbies like AIPAC and organizations like the ADL. These two organizations alone pressure lawmakers with false claims of anti-Semitism to continue the slaughter. While many lawmakers today more focused on being reelected than they are on serving the people, when these pro-Israel groups brag about funding and swinging elections, it's easy for them to point to that and warn elected officials, essentially threatening their jobs. While studies showed that weaponizing cynical claims of anti-Semitism is largely driven by Islamophobia and anti-Arab animus, many argued that this is the single motivating factor for these groups, Israel, and the U.S. to continue killing Arabs after 20 years of killing millions in Afghanistan and Iraq. The insanity has to stop. So, great article. I didn't read all of it. But we are going to get into more of the details of the viral video that Arturo talked about. So this is an article from a friend of the show, Brett Wilkins from Common Dreams, who reported video shows girl trying to escape Inferno as Gaza family burned alive in Israeli massacre. What we are doing in Gaza is a war of extermination, indiscriminate, unrestrained, brutal, and criminal killing of civilians, said former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert.
Which I don't fucking buy, by the way. That motherfucker did plenty of terrible shit in Lebanon himself. Like, you know, he's trying to save face now, but don't fucking buy that shit. Right. Anyway, continue. Right.
Video footage of a young girl trying to flee an inferno caused by a Monday Israeli airstrike that killed dozens of Palestinians, including her mother and siblings, sparked global outrage and calls for an immediate ceasefire in what former Prime Minister called a war of extermination. Medical officials in Gaza said that at least 36 people were killed by an Israel Defense Forces bombing at the Fahmy al-Jawawi school in the Al-Daraj neighborhood of Gaza City.
Yeah.
The Gaza government media office said that 18 children were killed in a brutal massacre.
Of a school.
The school was supposed to be...
Which is a fucking war crime. Like, what?
Right.
What are we doing?
The school was supposed to be a place of safety. Instead, it was turned into an inferno. Gaza civil defense spokesperson Mahmoud Basil told reporters, "We heard desperate cries for help from people trapped alive inside the blaze, but the fire was too intense. We couldn't get to them."
I did want to point out, and maybe someone will know this, like, normally explosions don't cause fires quite like that. You know? I don't know if it's partially because they're having to keep like flammables on hand to power things. You know, that might be one. Like, what is causing those fires every time they bomb somewhere? You know, like, yeah, it happens. They're residential buildings, but it just seems kind of crazy. Like, I'm wondering if Israel's throwing some incendiaries into stuff. You know, but anyway, continue.
Video recorded at the scene, and we're not going to we'll show pictures, but we're not going to show the actual video. You can find that online.
Yeah.
Video recorded at the scene of the strike showing the silhouette of a young girl identified as 7-year-old Ward al-Sheikh Khalil moving against the infernal backdrop as she tried to escape the blaze. According to the National, paramedic Hussein Musayin.
Yep.
Mushaysin, I guess. Sorry.
Yeah.
Rushed in to rescue the child, whom he said was moments away from death. When we pulled her out, she was in shock, silent, trembling, unable to comprehend what had just happened, Musasin said. We couldn't bring ourselves to tell her that our entire family was killed in the bombing. So, just for context, because even online it gave the impression that she was being burned. She's fine.
Yeah, she made it
her
out.
family isn't. She made it out. Her family didn't. So just to give that clarification there. The child's mother and at least 5 siblings were reportedly killed in the bombing. Only her father survived, and he's now in critical condition, said Musasi. We see tragedy every day, but holding a child who has lost everything, who doesn't even know yet, that's a kind of pain no one can explain, he's added. So right now, at least at the time of this reporting, Ward doesn't know about her family being killed. So
wounded child, no surviving family, you know?
Right. So so this is from Nabah, 7-year-old Ward al-Sheikh Khalil survived the Israeli army attack on the Fahmi al-Jawari school in Gaza City. Her mother and 5 siblings were killed. So this is her. And there's more. So this from Loki, who is a contributor to Mid Press. She is 7 years old. Her name is Ward, which means flowers. So this is the video that went viral of her walking in the midst of that.
Which we probably can't play just because of screams. Like there was like 3 or 4 videos of this event that you can find online of just people literally burning alive, you know? So
right.
But Last American Vagabond, while the partisan media focuses on Macron being slapped, you know, the real important stuff, it is actual news like this that falls by the wayside. Fucking agreed, bro. Like, people being distracted way too much.
No offense to people, to even our colleagues who reported on the slap, but
all offense though.
I saw no one, as far as I know, no one has reported on that.
Yeah.
And again, I think we're all getting Israel fatigue at this point,
which I think they're hoping on.
Right,
you know?
but this is more of a reason why we have to continue doing this, to let you know that this is not over and it's far from over.
Yeah.
So, especially when it deals with children.
Just to, you know, I feel like art speaks more somehow, you know? So appreciate these people. Haima, you know, we will not forgive. We will not forget. But I said it wrong. And Najat Ward, but Gaza is still burning. So, yep. I mean, incredible work. So, but you have a little bit more, right?
Yeah. The IDF admitted to the bombing, one of 200 it said it carried out Monday, and claimed it targeted, quote, a Hamas and Islamic Jihad command and control center. Okay. Didn't know that was code for school, but okay. As usual, no evidence was provided to support the claim. Meanwhile, in the northern Gaza city of Jabalia, another pre-dawn IDF strike reportedly killed 19 people, mostly women and children, sheltered in the Adel Rabu family home. Medical officials told reporters that recovery operations were still underway on Monday afternoon, with charred and mangled bodies being pulled from the rubble. Momen Adel Rabu, who rushed to the scene following the attack, told the National it was sudden. The house was completely flattened. Ambulances barely made it through to recover the wounded and the dead. Some bodies are still trapped under the rubble. Adel Rabu said that Israeli bombing continued nearby and drones buzzed overhead as first responders, who are often attacked and killed by Israelis' double tap strikes, dug through the ruins in search of survivors and victims. How can we search for survivors under fire, he asked. These were civilians, mothers, toddlers, elderly people. This wasn't a military target. It was our home. So this is a tweet that I have in the poll. So these were the 19 that were killed in that bombing.
Right.
No names, but we do have their faces. So yeah.
Yeah.
I believe you bought this as well.
Yep.
This is from Palestine Telegraph. There's no moral difference between putting people in gas chambers and burning people in school in Gaza. A Holocaust is happening right before our eyes, and the world is silent.
Yep.
The GMO said Monday that more than 2,200 Palestinian families have been entirely wiped out since October 2023. The U.S.-based Council on American Islamic Relations issued a statement Monday condemning the school shelter bombing and Sunday's barbaric killing of 2 Red Cross workers, weapon contamination officer Ibrahim Eid, and hospital security guard Ahmad Abdul Hilal in an IDF airstrike on their home in Khan Yunis. The weekend bombing following the March 23rd massacre of 15 Palestinian first responders, including Red Crescent paramedics, by Israeli ground troops in Rafah. How many more children, women, the elderly, journalists, healthcare workers, and first responders must Benjamin Netanyahu slaughter with American weapons before Donald Trump forces him to accept a permanent ceasefire deal that ends the genocide for good and frees all captives? As CAR National Executive Director Nihad Awal. Every hour that Israel genocidal crimes continue with impunity and with our government's complicity adds more dishonor to a shameful period in the history of our nation and our world. Well, I mean, that's just this country being itself. That's not a new thing. That would be the only thing I would say there. Hamas, which led the October 7th, 20... I'm not even going to read that. Oh, wait. So I don't want to get to this yet. Actually, you know what? Because I know you added some.
I think only a little bit. So
you did?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we haven't done Caitlin in a while. So well, it's time to listen to her. Well, to Tim Foley, her husband.
Yeah.
In terms of this story, oftentimes she says she reports on stuff in a way that I think is very succinct and kind of tugs at your heartstrings a bit, but also kind of brings a little sobering truth to the fuck shit that is our country and our world right now. So she titled this, and all of her videos and her articles are on her website. But she called this I wouldn't call it a segment, but article, and her husband's reading it. If you don't oppose the Gaza Holocaust, you've been wasting your life on this planet. So let's see what.
If you don't oppose the Gaza Holocaust, you've been wasting your life on this planet. They're burning kids alive in Gaza. They're burning them alive. And still people are silent, or are actively supporting Israel, or are spouting mealy-mouthed both sides gibberish while shrugging their shoulders. A spiritual teacher who I used to like posted the most obnoxious screed today, babbling about how both Israelis and Palestinians are suffering in this, quote, war, and that while Israel does have a, quote, right to defend itself, it's time for a ceasefire to be reached. This is a guy who's made a career out of presenting himself as so wise, insightful, and enlightened that people should pay him money to hear what he has to say about life and spiritual attainment, finally deciding to speak out about a genocide that's been going on for nearly 20 months now, and saying the most vapid, infantile nonsense imaginable. I know teenagers who could have done a better job. And from where I'm sitting, if this is the best you can do after a lifetime dedicated to spiritual insight and awakening, then what good was any of it? If you can't even take a solid stance against history's first live-streamed genocide after decades of spiritual seeking and spiritual finding, then it kinda seems like you've been wasting your life this whole time. And I guess I feel pretty much the same way about everyone who still isn't taking a stand on this thing. This is not a complicated issue. It doesn't take a tremendous amount of learning, wisdom, or morality to wind up on the correct side of this thing. You don't have to be a Buddha, a scholar, or a saint to oppose an active genocide. You just have to not be all fucked up inside. There is only one correct position to have on the Gaza Holocaust, and if you still haven't managed to find your way into that position, then I think it's fair to say you have been wasting your life on this planet up until this point. I mean, what have you even been doing here exactly? You clearly haven't been working on becoming a decent person. You haven't been learning about the world. You haven't been expanding your awareness of justice and inequality. You haven't been working on developing a truth-based relationship with reality. You haven't been developing empathy for your fellow human beings. You haven't been growing or maturing. What exactly have you been doing? How have you managed to spend your entire life avoiding all the most important things about living as a human organism on this planet? It's not too late to change this, of course. It's never too late to change. If you still haven't taken your stand against the genocide in Gaza, you can change this right away. If you don't know enough about what's happening, get curious and start learning. If you're having trouble discerning fact from fiction, get humble and ask questions. If you're having trouble sorting out right from wrong, get quiet inside and look in your heart. You've got this. You don't need any special qualifications to speak out against the Gaza Holocaust. You are already fully qualified to do so. Many people far more ignorant and far less ethical than yourself are already speaking out in support of Israel's actions, so you should feel free to use your own voice just as loudly. Learn as much as you can, but don't feel like you have to be some kind of expert to speak out against a genocide that's being facilitated by your own government. Get moving on this. There's no time to lose. Children are burning, and the clock is running out. Take a firm position on the great moral issue of our time, or be prepared to spend the rest of your life explaining why you didn't.
Yep.
Yep. So, just another example of speaking truth to power when you have the means to.
Where my things go?
That's what I was
Nice.
looking for.
Yeah, hold on. Let me refresh a bit. See if they're there, because I know I put them in. Office. This is like Google Slides being terrible sometimes. You know? So.
Well, you know what? I think I passed it because it was after the low key.
Gotcha. I'll go back
Because
to
I
it.
didn't
Hold
remember
on.
seeing it, so it might have. You just might have to go back.
Yep. I got it. Come on, load the things. Beep, beep, bop, boop, boop. It's on 55. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here you go. So I brought this. This is from Middle East Eye. Ward al-Sheikh Kahil, a Palestinian child who survived the bombing, recounts the night her mother and 6 siblings were burned to death.
I got out of the fire, and the fire burned my hands.
And
The ceiling had collapsed on me. I was at my aunt's, but I couldn't walk on the fire. And the paramedics told me not to move because my hand hurts. Because my hands are injured. When the fire broke out, I couldn't walk inside the school. then I was in the school and I was filmed. Then my mom and dad went to Al Shifa Hospital and my mom was killed. And my little sister, may God have mercy on her, was killed. Abed, Muhammad, Amal. My sister Miriam, the one, that's all. All of them were killed except me. I wish for my siblings. Arrived at the Baptist hospital and found the bodies charred. Completely charred, sons and daughters all burned. If it weren't for the fact that those killed, my brother's children were in their usual place in the classroom in the same spot, no one could tell who was who because of how badly they were burned. They were just skeletons. Within minutes, they were reduced to skeletons. They melted, truly melted, literally. And Ward, I saw her on the news like you all did, walking through the middle of the flame. That is a miracle from God. Praise be to God. God let her survive to witness to the injustice we're suffering. The injustice we're enduring from the whole world. The world is watching our son die and a woman burning before everyone's eyes. No one condemns it. What crime did they commit? What did they do? A child sleeping. What did they do? The mother, 2 boys and 3 girls. The mother was somewhat recognizable, but the children, not at all. They're all gone. They're all gone. All 6 gone. It's a very, very difficult situation. I saw it myself. I'm telling you, if those hadn't evacuated from them, we took them from that place, we wouldn't have known who they were. Just skeletons. Muhammad's head was severed. He was 9 or 10 years old. His body melted to an apart. The little girl, the one who came out from the flame. We saw her on the news. You all talked about her. She will complain to God. She'll complain about the entire nation. She'll complain to God all about them. What was her sin? To see her family burning in front of her. To see the place where she was sleeping, which was a shelter, a school, the place she considered safe, the school. A shelter center, her family dying before her eyes.
Yep. But anyway, that's what I brought. So,
I mean, if Ramaphosa really didn't want to say anything, all he had to do was show that.
Right. Yeah. So
just show Trump that and be like, so what's up?
Ugh. So, I mean, the amount of death of children is fucking ridiculous. So, but yeah. Awful stuff. Talk about it, though.
You're right. I mean, again, it says something, and I'm sorry, I have to call out even our colleagues when a slap by a grown woman, is deserving of more attention than that.
Yeah.
This should be played, and I'm going to say it now, because it was the 5th year anniversary of George Floyd being murdered over the weekend. This should have gone viral in a lot bigger way. I think, honestly, if Ward had died, honestly, that probably would have made it even more viral, to be honest. But because she was fine, relatively speaking, it probably didn't get as much attention, or the powers that be tried to bury this because obviously this involves a child, so they don't want to pull at anyone's heartstrings. But again, more of a reason why this should have been the thing that people should be talking about versus I don't give a fuck about Macron getting slapped. For all I know, he probably deserved the slap. And that was between two consenting adults. Who gives a fuck? But this, this guy is saying that this child is going to wonder, why did God take my family away from me?
A 7-year-old.
Right.
Has to
in
now
a school.
Has zero family
In a
left.
school, in a place that is considered a war crime to bomb.
Yeah. As well as hospitals, but they bomb those too. Just fucking awful. And we continue to have to cover news stories like this. So, fucking shit. Which, talking about these things is why we're demonetized, which of course we are. So scan that QR code, go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork if you would like to support us anyway. But if you can't do that, like and subscribe, share this video, send this to people who should watch it, and leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Cool. To the chats. I saw on Rumble, Ind Imperialism said, thank you for showing the video. I don't think I could handle it today. And also said, dying is easy. Life's an everyday decision. That poor child will forever be traumatized. Yeah. So,
Sean in the chat, this video broke me. I have no clue other than the video, so I'm hoping it's not my thoughts.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Dr. Donnie will just remember these people. These IOF have names and addresses. I feel you, dude. Right. ADL is literally APAC-ish. Yeah.
Social emotional during with Dr. Donnie. I'm fasting right now, only eating breakfast and solidarity. They're starving. Sean,
He also said,
this world effing sucks. We have the ability to be a utopia instead of we create a dystopia.
Dr. Donnie also said, probably napalm, dude. Sean replies, that was napalm or white phosphorus. Neo-napalm. So, yep. I mean, something's going on there, to me at least. And even though it ain't the same thing, really, in the slightest of trauma, it is so hard. I'm so fucking hungry right now. I ate one piece of candy, and it feels like a precious gift. Yeah, food is not great there. So,
but they're grateful for it, though. Whatever they do get. You've read stories about this all the time where, just the food that we might just kind of whatever, it's like Christmas for them, especially if it's like a food that they haven't eaten or maybe in very low supply that they're able to get.
Right.
So
anyway, I just fucking sucks. Indy, I have a 7-year-old. Yeah, I mean, I used to think that was like, you'd tell people, imagine that was your child. I shouldn't have to tell you to imagine that.
Right.
Like, it shouldn't matter if it's your child or not,
Right. No, why should a child have to go through that kind of trauma?
Yeah, it's fucking dumb. But anyway, let's get to our last one. Well, second to last one. My last one will be short, but this is a follow-up from last week where we brought in Lakesha's story about aid being privatized in Gaza now, right? They gave it to Blackwater cutouts and whatnot, so go check that story weaponized aid in the, list of clips that you can go back through our backlog. But we start here, right? So I don't know if you saw this over the weekend, but last couple of days at least, about the aid operation that was put on. I think the Navy would call it a clusterfuck if it were me. But so Euromed Monitor, new mechanism to manage starvation instead of ending it, and Israeli helicopters open fire on thousands of starving people crushed in the chaos. This is how the first day of allowed aid entry into Gaza looked like. So here's the trucks that they allowed in, which we saw a bit of that last week, right? So, but you'll see in a second where this is people traveling, right? So after nearly 3 months of Israel's complete closure of Gaza's crossings, which that's a factor, preventing the entry of all humanitarian aid and goods, Israel has begun implementing a new mechanism for bringing in aid, which is U.S. military backed. So we're going to get to what's in these packages in a bit. But yeah, I mean, it's not is sufficient for only 1 week. This box, right, lacks any nutritious items, particularly for children, most of whom are already suffering from malnutrition. The issue lies not in the contents of the package, although I would argue
that too,
but in the method by which residents are compelled to receive it. And this is the footage that people have been looking at. So Israel has established only 4 distribution centers for more than 2 million people, all of which are concentrated in the southern and central areas of the Strip. Gaza City and the northern Gaza Strip were excluded. So they're pushing them further south to get this aid anyway, forcing residents either to travel up to 30 kilometers round trip or to evacuate northern Gaza and relocate to the south, which has been their goal. To receive the weekly package, given the lack of transportation, or on the very first day of the mechanism's launch, hungry residents scrambled for food. Several distribution sites were looted amid the chaos, while Israel forces fired from helicopters, putting thousands of civilians' lives at grave risk. So, yeah, great start, guys. Perfect way to go. So, we're going to get into specifics a bit. So, this is the Hassam Shabbat account saying, stop calling it humanitarian aid. This isn't humanitarian, nor is it aid. It is a cruel spectacle of sadistic control and degradation. So this is the picture. AOC. I know, right? Yeah, so this is fucking, I mean, this is what you do to cattle, Like you'll see obvious parallels in a second. So Alan McLeod on November 14th pushed this out, saying former British Special Forces poised to deliver aid to new Gaza gated fucking communities. They're gated communities, Collin. Fucking Alan says they're making concentration camps sound like a luxury condo development. The fucking Israeli HOA sounds like a fucking terrible idea. I'm just saying. Jesus Christ. Anyway, translating Palestine said, in a scene resembling Nazi concentration camps, a starving population was lined up in a dehumanizing way to receive aid for the first time since March 2nd through this so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Drone footage shows civilians cramped and trying to break free. Instead of enabling expert UN organizations to deliver aid properly, Israel and the US have set up an obviously inexperienced and incapable org whose sole purpose is further occupation. Agreed. Does it look familiar, Care Bear? Any of this looking familiar?
Yep.
I mean, you can't tell me it doesn't. All you got to do is make these fucking pictures black and white, and suddenly they're at the Holocaust Museum. All right? I'm just saying. Like, I think they got the same fucking fence builder, bro. You know, Matum Adalul, different places, different times, different people, but similar oppressive schemes and similar oppressors. And Jimmy J for the win says so much for never again. So yeah, I mean, it feels like very historically fucking bullshit thing. So, yay, terribleness. So, Rami Abdul, no entity can manage the humanitarian scene in Gaza except the UN agencies, foremost among them UNRWA. Any other parties are engaging in political blackmail and criminal acts led by the US and Israel. So, this was the scene, Care Bear, right? You're seeing people, that's an entire crowd of people. Again, we've not had aid pulled into Gaza for like, what, since March? So you set up 4 centers, that's what you're going to get. You know, anyway, so this is again from one of the aid distribution camps, right? And again, it's just parallels of Auschwitz to me, you know? So, I don't know. So, after 86 days of starvation, starving Gazans had to walk several kilometers on foot in order to get a food parcel, enough for only 24 hours. So, here's the amount of people you're seeing, like... Dude, this is a lot of folks. Like, walking in the summer sun. Children, kids, women, like, elderly. I mean, I feel like they're making them walk the Trail of Tears thousands of times now, you know?
Yeah.
Ugh. So, U.S. aid workers flee the scene after they lost control of the distribution, Care Bear. So, this is so many people, by the way. Like, and again, we're going to cover this in a second. So, this is the food they received, right? You notice all the writings in Hebrew, you know?
Right.
I mean, it's just fucking chaos, man. Like, so again, shots were fired. More shots. More shots. Again, you see women, children, elderly. All of them unarmed, by the way. From what I've seen here. I mean, like, I don't know how they keep getting away with it, you know? So, again, we just showed this food, right? So, it's just dry goods. Pretty much here it is laid out, right? So, we've got, what is that? Some pasta. Couple of bags of beans. I imagine like tahini or oil. Salsa of some kind, right?
Oil.
You know, what is this?
That's flour.
Right. We're going to get to the bullshit of this in a second. So the aid now entering Gaza definitely isn't also meant to boost the Israeli economy. Yeah, all of this has Hebrew on it, you know, so that's nice. I'm sure they're loving that kickback. Disaster capitalism is alive as well. Israeli companies make a fat profit from genocide, and U.S. taxpayers foot the bill. One thing that Israel always made sure is to keep the entire Palestinian economic system fully dependent on Israel. There's money to be made from apartheid and occupation. Alon Mizrahi, this is genocidal humiliation and subjugation campaign, not aid. And we are every little detail of international complicity and Zionist depravity with excruciating detail. We're looking straight in your dumb lying faces, you enabler scum. Kind words from Alon. So seasoned humanitarians do not operate this way because it's terribly risky and ineffective way to deliver aid. Here's a quick thread. So one thing that relief workers learn early is that managing desperate crowds is tough. So you generally try to deliver aid in a way that avoids drawing more people than you can manage and serve at a given site. More sites equals smaller crowds, manageable distribution, not this. The GHF model is the total inverse of that. Rather than dispersing people across many sites, GHF concentrates them at very few sites with very grandiose aspirations of serving huge numbers, as evidenced by today's chaos.
Also, sorry.
Yeah,
but I think
you're good.
now that he's saying that, it makes sense because it looks good for the media and it looks good for the normal person. And remember, I told you guys last week, think in terms of aid, and they said they deliver, I think it was 500 trucks a day.
Yeah, which is
they say
not what
they
needed.
say. Now, considering and I think a lot of you, even in the chat last week, made it very clear that those numbers are very abstract. That has no meaning for you. You don't know what that means, in terms of thinking about that, in terms of what that means for over 2 million people. But you hear a large number, you will think, oh, that sounds decent, right? Same thing with this. It's you see large crowds getting food, you might think, oh, Israel's actually doing something. So it kind of lessens the genocide, so to speak. You're not thinking about, or you're not supposed to think about the extra details that might make you think, oh, there's something wrong, or that doesn't seem to be enough, or that looks weird. So it's basically marketing for you all to appease you because you're not going to think about it too hard.
Yep. So, cannot stress enough that any humanitarian could tell you what will happen if you cut off a population for 2 months and then introduce a symbolic amount of aid at a single point distribution. You will be overrun by desperate people. It's just math. I am relieved that this did not result in a redo of the flower massacre, which we covered, but that's the risk when you draw large crowds of desperate, hungry people toward armed security perimeters. That risk remains. Indeed, it's baked into the GHF model. The aid package is also really problematic. The video shows the contents, mostly dried and pre-packaged food, pasta, flour, dried beans, and tins. Why is that relevant? Because it still has to be prepared, and the means of preparing it are still being blocked. I mean, you're not going to get electricity.
And Reef knows this because I've been on a workout regimen for the past year and change, is mostly carbs.
Other than the beans,
pasta. There's a little bit of the beans, source. But that's the protein, but that's not going to be nearly enough to satiate you.
Yeah.
So it's basically all carbs that is going, it's basically all carbs that is going to give you a spike.
Yeah.
And then you're going to shoot way down and you're going to be hungry fairly quickly. Whereas if you had more protein, it's more satiating, so you're able to stay full longer. So the food that they're giving is not meant for you to be satisfied. It's meant for you to get hungry, essentially, because it's just carbs. But again, it's the idea of like, it's not like these like the military ready meals that you can add water to it. Like, and even that, it's like they have no access to cook the food depending on where you are. So it's like you're giving them the food, but they can't even eat it.
So to turn pasta or raw flour into edible food, you need clean water and a fuel source for cooking. Neither of those are in these boxes by definition, and Israel is continuing to block aid groups from bringing in clean water. Other aid, apart from GHF food parcels, remain blocked. Medical, water and sanitation, shelter, nutrition, virtually nothing else is getting in, and established aid groups are still getting the runaround from Israeli authorities. It's also totally insufficient for people, particularly kids, at an advanced stage of malnutrition. To prevent starvation, they need specialized therapeutic and supplementary foods. This is not the right diet for those at the highest risk.
I argue this gives me, I hate saying this in this way because it's somewhat stereotypical, but this gives low income bodega vibes if you go into a bodega and like the processed food that you might pretty much will get there.
Yeah, just unprocessed, so that you still have to fucking process it when you've got no fuel, no fucking water. It's just fucking ridiculous. But of course, those at the highest risk aren't even receiving these packages. The locations are very far from most of the population, are only in the south. There is no way someone weakened by serious malnutrition can walk 10 to 15 kilometers in the blazing sun and haul back a heavy box. So those who can manage to make it to the distribution site will be those who are in relatively better shape to begin with. The worst off will be left out by this distribution model. The whole thing is a scandalous debacle like Biden's Pierce stunt, but on steroids with much higher risks. So, what to do? Simple. Do what we know works. Flood the zone with aid delivery at scale via experienced humanitarian professionals, not moonlighting military contractors. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the way this goes. So, terrifying disappearance of dozens of young men inside the Israeli-American aid camp west of Wafa. They walked in for food. They never came back. Families are panicking. Bodies lie on the ground. Tanks and helicopters seal the area and open fire. So, yeah, I mean, it just seemed like chaos in all these videos. So, you know, I mean, clearly they were using this for, we said last week that they're making sure that everyone's facial recognitioned up here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Eva weighs in, unverified but completely plausible talk of a Palestinian from Gaza abducted by the Israeli army in the new aid forced displacement scheme. His family says, to our shock, he called us under threat from Israeli intelligence officers, demanding information about one of our relatives with whom we had no contact since the beginning of the war. When we were unable to provide the information the army requested, communication was cut off, and we were later informed that he was transferred to a detention center. He is now considered missing. That's a fucking hostage situation to me. They might as well have asked for ransom. The group said truckloads of food, it did not say how many, had been delivered to its hubs, and distribution to Palestinians had begun. It was not clear where the hubs were located or how these receiving supplies were chosen. So, screenshot is said to be a statement by the Gaza relief committees. As predicted, the so-called aid scheme means that starving Palestinians have to walk huge distances. The Israeli army, meaning they can be killed or abducted by the Israeli army before any supposed aid is gotten. Yep. So, to clarify what is happening with the American org operating under the protection of the Israeli military, they announced the assistance of a warehouse in the Tel al-Sultan area west of Rafah City. Dozens of civilians voluntarily headed there, without any organized distribution system to receive a food parcel, as you may have seen in some circulated photos. The process does not follow any regulated distribution mechanism like those previously managed by UN agencies. It is merely a demonstration, a way to claim that aid distribution has resumed. The minimum distance a person must walk to receive a food parcel that barely lasts 2 days is more than 15 kilometers. There is no public transport, only basic local tools like donkey-drawn carts can sometimes reach the area. A humanitarian appeal, which we have verified, was issued by a family whose relatives was detained during the distribution due to the military's presence nearby. We are talking about tens of thousands across the Gaza Strip who will not be able to access these old points. A single distribution location in Rafah, in the heart of a military incursion zone, poses significant danger and threat. It will not be effective unless aid distribution is returned to a system managed by UN affiliate institutions. So the experts seem to be in agreement, right? So degrading and dangerous is how Palestinians described the experience of trying to receive aid in Rafah today. They walked for hours on foot, uncertain of what they'd even receive, only to return with nothing. An elderly woman trying to do diapers for her disabled daughter had to turn back due to health complications. So we'll let them speak. Here we go. Perfect. We are going to danger to eat. We went to Rafah, all the way to Rafah just to eat. We went all the way to Rafah so we could eat. It's wrong of them. Have mercy on us, people. Have mercy on Gaza. People are going to danger to eat and feed their children. They're moving us from one place to the next, from one place to the next. It's wrong of them. We're tired. We're tired. I came to bring something for my children like everyone else, but I went back. I couldn't reach it. I have a 19-year-old girl with a disability. I can't find any diapers for her. I came to see what they're giving people. I started running like everyone, and I have hyperdiabetes and a bad artery. We want actual humanitarians. Give us relief. Leave us be. We don't want war. We want the war to stop. We want the war to stop. We say to all those in charge, we want the war to stop. It was all for nothing. You didn't get any. It was crowded and cramped. 1 million people there. 1 million. And it was all for nothing. The occupation forces were encroaching on us. It was peak humiliation. The women were humiliated for nothing. They wanted to humiliate us, looking at us from above. They were looking down upon us to humiliate us, the people. We want the crossings to open, to receive aid like before. Just like they did before. Have aid enter. It was all for nothing. They made us enter Sinai just for aid. We walked 4 kilometers just to get an aid worth 200 shekels, and in the end, it was all for nothing. And all that is happening is nonsense, a joke. A joke. So, seems like they're in agreement too that it was nonsense. So, again, they're talking about Rafah, right? So, here is the aerial view of Rafah before the Zionists on October 7th decided to bomb them. So, that's what it looked like before. That's what it looks like now. So, that's what they're asking, like, people to go to get aid, right? This pile of rubble that was once a city is where they're sending them to. So I don't know how that's going to work out for anybody, but just awful. So again, they talked about children waiting for long hours, right? I mean, what's the temperature in the desert in the summer, you think? Like
at least 100 degrees.
Right. In the shade, you know?
Fahrenheit.
And these kids are hungry. Most of them haven't had like real food in months, you know? So I mean, and they're giving them a soup that they prepared on site because they're not going to cook that shit at home. So again, the Palestinians having to take this into their own hands and like prepare food for I don't know how many, you know. So, I mean, just the parallels are kind of ridiculous. So, I mean, they're also just, I mean, literally kids were getting burned. So, say again?
No, I'm
You
just
got
saying
it?
like they're. Yeah, I'm just saying like they're gonna burn themselves doing all of that.
Right.
So
I mean, they were literally just getting like people crushed. So, I mean, people have died this way. Like,
yeah,
it's fucking ridiculous. Again, you were talking about kids getting burned. I mean, scalding liquids being fucking thrown around, right? Like, it's just crazy, man. So, wanted to showcase who were doing it. These are American mercenaries, right? These are Blackwater groups. Right? That's American ex-military with American rifles, American equipment. I mean, this looks like a fucking scene out of Buchenwald, dude. To me, like, people pressed up against fucking barbed wire, you know? So, now, I saw this online, and there's some arguing whether this is AI or not, right? I'll let you people be the judge of it, but I only brought it just to show terrible American mercenary behavior. So, you know, again, people said the audio may have been AI. Lots of confusion online about that. So take that with a grain of salt, but I just like how they got the terrible U.S. mercenary in there. So, but the aid distribution today was stolen, funny how that works, by the American-Israeli company and the Israeli army from ROM Worldwide. The organization was misled and several of its trucks were taken, which were then used by them to distribute the aid themselves. So, like, yeah, Indy says because it says people were cheering for the American, which, you know, I doubt they would actually do. So, didn't look like they had much time to do that. But, again, this is the aid that was like, it was straight up stolen. Like, they didn't even bring their own aid. Like, I just don't know how this works. Speaking of stealing, Gazans are circulating videos showing their seizure of supplies and contents from the security zone. One of them was this sign, Care Bear. Right? So, here's this sign. Right? I have to translate it. It says you are entering human territory. Do not go down the road and do not stay in the area. Whoever violates the instructions puts his life at risk. So this is the kind of signage they're putting up. But Mr. Ismail here says, when a people truly desire life, destiny must answer. These words resonate powerfully today in Rafah, where thousands of Palestinians stand on the brink of starvation and death, trapped under an unrelenting siege since March. Amidst the rules and devastation, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, backed by U.S. forces, has set up aid distribution points, scenes that reveal the harrowing struggle of a population fighting for survival. What should have been a moment of compassion turned into chaos and violation, fences torn down, supplies stolen, soldiers firing warning shots, a grim portrait of merciless blockade, the stringent security measures and biometric controls imposed by the Foundation with Western support raise alarming questions about the politicization of aid and the ethical implications of using humanity as a tool for control. Yet, despite all this oppression, the Palestinian people in Gaza insist on life, writing with their blood and resilience on an unerasable story of endurance. This is the undeniable truth the world must hear. when a people yearn for life, no wall, no weapon, no siege can stop them. Destiny will respond, no matter how long it takes. So, this is the Cradle bringing up that ISIS-linked gang leader behind Gaza aid looting resurfaces. So funny how ISIS is involved here. In Gaza, criminal gang leader Yasser Abu Shabab and others like him have reemerged under the guise of securing aid, donning uniforms and claiming to protect the limited humanitarian assistance entering the Strip. Now, this is something, again, that they bring up in regards to this aid fiasco, that they said that this is, like, you know, well, why do you just want aid to go to Hamas, you know, that sort of thing, where meanwhile it's ISIS gangs actually looting this. So, but yeah, Abu Shabab is a known leader of armed gangs linked to ISIS and involved in looting aid under Israeli protection, right? So, reports from Haaretz and the WAPO confirm that these gangs have been seen looting in full view of Israeli forces, who neither intervene nor prevent the theft. I wonder why, Care Bear. Right? Well, you know what ISIS stands for. Israel's Secret Intelligence Service. Just in case you didn't know, Asa Winstanley agrees ISIS equals Israel and the CIA. Funny how they always get away with it, right?
ISIS agents use Krav Maga. We've got an ex-Mossad guy. He comes in on Thursday.
Yeah, it just makes sense. So, Israel is working to empower ISIS and Al-Qaeda-linked gangs in Gaza. They do this through giving weapons and air support, allowing these gangs to loot aid, establishing Hamas-free zones. Hamas long worked to suppress the Salafist militias and gangs. Imagine where this will lead, similar to what they do in Syria. So that's pretty much what we've seen. So here's Motam al-Dalul. According to the latest geospatial assessment carried out by FAO and UNISAT, only 4.6% of cropland area in Gaza is available for cultivation. 80% is damaged and 77% is not accessible as a result of Israel's genocidal policies. Like, look at all this farmland, right? So, like, what's the, like, cropland available for is like this little green bits. The tiny little green bits in here is the available cropland they have. So they're definitely not growing their own shit. So meanwhile, in Israel, they're stopping humanitarian trucks. And these are Israeli citizens, by the way. Like, these aren't the IDF. Like, so I don't know where you get off stopping food from being delivered. I don't get that. But, you know, they have plenty of it for themselves, Care Bear. Like, they're literally setting up fucking barbecues on the other side of the fucking strip. So, they've got plenty of watermelon for themselves. So, funny how that works. Ugh. And they're going to take out the wheat silos. So you're not even allowed to fucking hold the wheat that you grow. Right? They happily destroy the fucking infrastructure. They've been doing this. So, similar to our stories here where they destroy food production. But, you know, don't mind us. So, in blow to Israeli-backed aid efforts, CEO of group supposed to manage it resigns. So, the CEO of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, right, decided to resign after this fiasco. Funny how that works. Eva says, this reeks of creating the circumstances that prevent benevolent Israel from letting aid into Gaza. It's nonsense, of course. Israel controls all entry points into Gaza, could have long ago instructed the crossings to be opened to the countless aid trucks waiting to bring desperately needed food, water, medicines, life, basics into Gaza. Top Israeli figures have repeatedly boasted of their intent to deliberately starve to death Palestinian civilians in Gaza. Now, Israel can claim it was ready to help, but can't, since this utterly unnecessarily and highly questionable new aid organization is directorless. The premise of Israel now potentially allowing only this organization bring aid into Gaza is Israel's claim that Hamas steals aid coming into Gaza, a claim which Israel provides zero evidence for, like all of Israel's other claims. This is particularly sadistic, given recent reports on actual aid theft being long enabled and protected by Israel. Abu Shabab had established a fortified base in an Israeli-controlled zone in Rafah, now a kill zone. These groups operate under Israeli military protection, routinely looting aid convoys, especially in areas like eastern Rafah and Qarib Abu Salem. Abu Shabab is a known leader of armed gangs. Last year, the New Era reported that Abu Shabab, among others, was working alongside hundreds of thieves under the protection of Israeli occupation forces, the primary entry point for aid convoys near the Karim Shalom crossing. Multiple reports, including from Haaretz and the Washington Post. Right, we talked about that. Jake Wood, founder and executive director of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, resigned from his position on Monday. The UN and other international organizations in Gaza vowing not to cooperate with GHF, arguing that its aid initiative violated humanitarian principles by requiring Gazans to walk long distances in order to retrieve aid and limiting distribution to southern Gaza in what would forcibly displace the Palestinian population. This is the continuation of Israel's sadistic plan of mass starving Palestinians in Gaza to the point where they are forcibly displaced, for Israel to steal more Palestinian land. So that's pretty much what we said. But any closing thoughts before I get us out of here?
I mean, what more can be said other than like, why are more people talking about this?
Yeah. So fucking terrible, isn't it? Well, I'll end on a lighter note. just because I feel like it's necessary. This is slightly, as much as possible. So this is them finally being able to bake bread again. I cried for loved ones. Tears run down my cheeks. I swear, my friends, I'll never forget your days. Have our days gone? Oh, where did we spend them? They vanished in the blink of an eye. How sweet their memories. I sang from deep yearning, aching for the days of youth. I held back my tear. Oh, how sweet is the memory. Where have our days gone? So, nice to see them still resilient, as much as they try to make them not. So, but anyway, talking about these things is almost certainly why we're demonetized. So you can scan that QR code, go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork, or as always in the description below. If you would like to give us some dollary dues, we appreciate it. But if not, just like and subscribe, share this video, make sure people see it. It's the only way people seem to find us. And, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Otherwise, thanks for watching. We did it. What does the chat say? I'm sure fuck Israel's all around.
From India, yes.
Yep. Sorry if I missed it, says individualism, but how did they notify them of the aid location? Flyers from a helicopter. Yes, pretty much. And on the IDF's website. So that's what I saw. So
Sean says, I don't get it. I just don't get why or guess how. How can people hate so much as to do this?
That's a whole bunch of brainwashing, my friend. Yeah.
Propaganda.
So just in order of time, I'll get to my last one, which will be super short, and then we'll follow up with chat and say our goodbyes. But this happened right? So David McBride's appeal got rejected. If you've been following any of the whistleblower activity, you'll know that this was not great. So McBride's appeal rejected, says Joe Loria. The Australian government whistleblower is headed back to jail with no end of incarceration in sight. He is serving nearly 6 years for leaking documents to the media exposing Australian war crimes in Afghanistan. If you didn't know. So I mentioned this to one of my Australian friends on Discord, who I've just blurred just for privacy reasons, but he replied, "We'll be really disappointed in my country if it doesn't get dropped." Well, welcome to the disappointment, friend. You know? So we've been disappointed for quite a while. But Joe Loria continues, a 3-judge panel at the Supreme Court in Australia's capital Wednesday spent less than 1 minute dismissing all appeals by David McBride, sending the government whistleblower back to prison where he is serving a 6-year sentence for exposing his country's war crimes in Afghanistan. And I'll just start the timer now. McBride appeared only briefly in court and waved to his lawyers, family, and the few supporters who were able to make it into the courtroom. After the judges pronounced their decision, he was whisked off back to the Canberra jail cell, leaving his wife in tears. His attorney and a few supporters were left stunned and ashen-faced as they were reeled from the ruling. McBride's next step could be to ask leave of the High Court, Australia's highest court, to hear his case. That could take many months, with no guarantee the appeal will be heard. The Supreme Court on Wednesday seemed to have wanted to minimize the number of McBride supporters in the courtroom, as previous hearings have produced scenes of standing ovations from the packed public gallery. This time, McBride's name and courtroom number were not posted on a large board in the court's lobby, leaving his supporters scrambling to find out where his hearing was. By the time they arrived, McBride and the judges were already gone 3 minutes after the hearing had begun. So, 3 minutes, Collin, that's all they got. But this is from the Trust Fall account. So they write, today, Australians' whistleblowing laws utterly failed David McBride again. He is a victim of an inherently corrupt system which is more interested in covering up war crimes and protecting those that expose it. He lost his appeal against the severity of his sentence and against the court's ruling that he was not duty-bound to release the documents. A year ago, former military lawyer McBride was sentenced to 5 years and 8 months jail for leaking war crimes to the media, crimes of murder of innocent people that are very much in the public interest. It is a national disgrace that the only person who is in prison in relation to war crimes in the Afghanistan war is the whistleblower, not the ones who committed the actual crimes. His lawyer said in a statement, "We believe that only the High Court can properly grapple with the immense public interest and constitutional issues at the heart of this case. It cannot be a crime to expose a crime. It cannot be illegal to tell the truth. They are also called for a federal government to pardon McBride." His lawyer said in a statement, "We believe that only the High Court can properly grapple with the immense public interest constitutional issues at the heart of this case. It cannot be a crime to expose a crime." I just read that, didn't I? So McBride's lawyers have flagged they will appeal to the High Court. It is the responsibility of Albanese and the Attorney General to show Australians that this government will no longer jail whistleblowers. Albanese has dragged his feet on fixing our broken whistleblower laws that came into force 11 years ago. The Public Interest Disclosure Act is clearly flawed, exemplified by McBride and also Richard Boyle. So that, Collin, was 3 minutes. That's how much they were given in court. So, like, I didn't think I was going to get through the segment in 3 minutes, let alone an entire fucking court appeal, bro. What? First of all, people didn't even know where the fucking room was. They got there, he was gone. They were like, nah, get the motherfucker out of here. We send him back to jail, sir. Like,
right.
Jesus Christ. Like, can you imagine that in like the Diddy trial? You know, 3 minutes, they're out. You know what I mean? Like, that would fucking be...
In that case, if that might be a good thing, depending on
Just fucking so barely enough time to strike a gavel, dude. Put on a fucking powdered wig. Like, they ain't got no time for that shit. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that, make sure we covered it. You know? Jesus Christ, what a fucking shit world we live in. And talking about whistleblowers like McBride is why we're demonetized. You can scan that QR code, go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork and leave us a few dollary dues. We appreciate it if any of the Australians are watching and want to support us. Otherwise, like and subscribe. Share this video. I know no one's seeing them. Unless you share them, people don't watch. Otherwise, you know, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. How fucked up is this? But, you know, otherwise have a nice day. Thanks for watching. We did it, Care Bear. We made it. So, Colorado People's News said not posting on the big board for trials is always done against those they are intentionally screwing. Seen it happen in Denver area many times. Yeah, for sure. So, 3-minute kangaroo court? How did I not think of kangaroo court? It's such a fucking good joke. So good. Right there for the taking, and I missed it. Like, I just fucking 3 minutes is just...
You could change that in the thumbnail.
In the thumbnail, kangaroo court. Yeah, I should.
Remake kangaroo court.
Fucking anyway. Yeah. Just hopefully we have a better week than the week we had this week, as I seem to ask every week. But anyway, what do we got coming up this week?
So
you
might need to refresh. I updated the.
Yeah, I'm pulling them up now.
Slides, and there are 2 of them. So, shout out to Indy.
Slide 1 is here. Cool. There you go. You can see it, right?
Wait. Yeah, there were 2.
Yeah, I'm getting
2.
I'm getting the other one. So
okay, I put
that's
it
the
in the
first one.
slideshow.
Yeah, it's just I'd have to go refresh. All right, I got it. That's the other one. Which would you like first? This one? The other one? Last week's? Week before last week's?
No, this is this week.
Yep.
Finishing out this week, and then next week is the second one.
So we got this one. We've got what? Thursday American Tradition with Jesse Jett. I think that's happening, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Wait.
Yeah, live stream 5:31. I thought I had. Oh, you gave them to me backwards. There you
that
go.
One is, yeah.
Cool. Got it. I figured it out. We do it live.
We'll do it live. Fuck it.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, AM Wake Up. That's simulcast on X, Kick, and Twitch. Tomorrow night, Eyes and Ears with Charles, Indy, and Nature Boy. Indy, if you can let us know where that will be, what channel.
Yeah.
That'll be at 9:30 Eastern Time. Friday, in the morning, simulcast of the Independent Review. That will also be available on X, Kick, and Twitch. Angel in the afternoon at 7 p.m. Followed by American Tradition Clip Show at 10:30.
Yep.
And then next week.
There you go. That should be it. That one. 5:31.
Yep. And next week, Pro Wrestling Talk with Angel and Wishy Perfect on the Ocho. If you're not subscribed there, please do, but that will be at 7. This is Saturday, but I said Sunday. Followed by Indy's one-on-one with the Dissonant at 10.
Nope.
Sunday, how do we miss that? followed by Boats starting at 10.
Yep.
With you and Indy. Monday next week, Monday through Thursday, and Wake Up at 10. Independent Review on Tuesday night at 9. I guess that's
Yeah, that'll be on Twitter and stuff, I think.
Twitter. Okay. And then next week, Wednesday,
Same bad time.
Us. And then next
Cool.
You might as well
American
finish
tradition. Well,
next week.
American Tradition with Jesse Jet.
Yeah.
Oh.
Next Thursday at 10 with his clip show next Friday at 10:30.
Nice.
Same bat channel.
Yay. Cool. Well, you can always follow Indie News Network. Go to @GetIndieNews on Twitter or indienewsnetwork.com. Any of those things, you'll get updates if anything changes. So go check those out if you haven't already. I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Other than, and I meant it at the beginning for those of you who are tuning in now, if you have any stories, we probably should say this on the regular.
Yeah.
If you have any stories you'd like us to cover, please shoot us
Tag
a
us on
tweet
Twitter.
at Get Indie News or DM us. Let us know. We're getting not bored, but we're getting a little frustrated with what we're seeing. There is a lot more local stories that you guys are seeing that should be covered. So let us know if you think we're worth covering them, and then Indy and I might do it. I mean, Reef and I might do it. So anything to break up the monotony of me yelling and screaming every week.
Yeah.
There's no stories. So,
all right, fam. Remember, kids.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anything you want to finish?
Also, anyone that we should interview. That's the other thing Reef and I talked about. So let us know in the chat, or let us know in the comments, or let us know on Twitter if there's any particular people that you would like us to interview. Even if it's for us, at least, if it seems impossible, let us know anyway. Might gives us something to work toward. So,
yeah.
But yeah, so let us know that too, in the comments or on social media.
Nope. All right.
All right.
Remember, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
Have a good week, everyone.
We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Bye. Have a great time.